What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto was betrayed by Team 7, and found love in an Akatsuki assassin? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. A 23-year-old Naruto Uzumaki walked through a field filled with tombstones and crosses. That's right, it was a cemetery Naruto himself created. It was filled with the bodies of every person he had ever loved for or cared about. Naruto walked through the graves looking at tombstones. Tsunade, Jiraiya, Anko, Tenten, Ino, Neji, Shikamaru, every single person he had ever befriended in his life, even the Ichirakus. Naruto finally came to one specific grave, the one grave that given the chance he would gladly give his own life to undo, Sakura Uzumaki. She had been killed on their honeymoon, shortly after she had confessed her love for him. She, along with everyone else in the cemetery, was killed by one man, Sasuke Uchiha. Naruto dropped to his knees before Sakura's grave and tears flowed from his eyes down his cheeks. Why? Why does everything bad have to happen to me? Every single person I ever loved, killed by the first person I considered a friend. Naruto reached down to the holster on his hip and pulled out a kunai, a special three-pronged kunai, and he placed it to his chest. Well, at least now I'll finally be able to see them all again. Naruto just started to add pressure to the knife when an angelic voice spoke behind him. That might not be necessary. Naruto instantly spun around and looked at the source of the voice. It was a woman. She was the definition of beauty. She had on a long flowing silk silver dress. Her hair was long and flowing in the slight breeze. It was a pure white, not like an aged gray. Her eyes were the only thing about her not white, they were pitch black, and yet convened nothing but warmth and comfort. She was barefoot, which was slightly odd. "Who are you?" Naruto asked, with the kunai now raised into a defensive position. The woman smiled sweetly at Naruto, which instantly put him into a state of complete calm. "I am the one you call Kami." Naruto's eyes widened, then narrowed sharply. "Really now? So you're the son of a bitch who has made my life such a piece of trash nightmare?" Kami shook her sadly. "I am deeply sorry for what you have had to endure in your life, but no, it was not my doing, or my plan for you. Your entire life has been going against my wishes, from the day you were born." Naruto was confused, and voiced it. "Nani?" Kami sighed. "I never intended Kyuubi to be sealed into you. I wanted you to have a normal childhood, a normal life, but once that went haywire I tried to make your life more enjoyable. Then that snake Sanin from your village ruined everything and created all that you see around you. His curse marks are completely horrid. Over time they strip the recipient of all rational thought, reducing them to instincts and basic emotions, like anger and rage. When he put that curse on Sasuke everything went wrong. Sasuke was meant to be a powerful ally to you, not your worst enemy. Your life has truly been the worst that has ever come to pass." Naruto sighed and shook his head sadly. "That's great. Everything was supposed to be different, but it's not, so what use is it telling me about it? Why can't you just let me die and finally be with those that I love?" Kami smiled. "Because, you do not have to die to see them again. I intend to right my mistakes, so I will send you back, far back your days in the academy, where then you can befriend Sasuke, truly befriend him, not as rivals as you were in this time. Then I want you to destroy Orochimaru when he appears. Finally, I want you to act as my hitman of sorts. From time to time I may ask you to assist me in removing certain dangers to the world, or rogue angels who decide my decisions aren't final." Naruto was completely stupefied. "So wait, you're going to send me back in time, to 10 years ago and have me fix everything that went wrong with my life, then you're going to have me work as Kami's assassin?" Kami smiled at him. "More or less, though considering the timeline I may have you be an assassin earlier rather than later. Also when I send you back you will still have all knowledge you have now, your physique will also go with you, and you will be gaining a new outfit and a new weapon, that you shall be using in the name of Kami." Naruto was confused again. "Keep my physique? I'm going to be a 6 feet 3 inches 13-year-old? Kami laughed, which sounded so perfect and angelic. "No my boy. You will keep all the hard work for muscle and strength you have now. You will still be normal sized. You will just be, as you call it, ripped. One more thing. I cannot undo the changes you have undergone because of Kyuubi, so you will be keeping your powers from him." Naruto nodded. "Okay, so how does this work?" "Like this. Kami reared back and slammed her palm into Naruto's forehead, knocking him out instantly, and blowing him out of existence, in this timeline. Naruto opened his eyes and looked around. He was in his old apartment. What the? This place was destroyed years ago. Naruto jumped out of his bed and walked to his bathroom. He walked past his medicine cabinet to use the toilet and froze. He stepped back and looked at his reflection. Oh Kami, it wasn't some horrible dream. Naruto suddenly felt lightheaded, and he almost fainted, but he steadied himself on the sink. Okay, get a hold of yourself, Naruto. You've been sent back in time 10 years to save the timeline and become Kami's assassin. You can deal with this. It's nothing. Naruto then passed out and smacked down hard on his bathroom floor. Naruto woke up about 15 minutes later and slowly got up from the floor and went to the bathroom. He walked out of the bathroom and noticed there was a pile of things on his dresser. He walked over to the pile. There was a note on top. He lifted it and read it. Naruto Uzumaki, I mentioned a new set of clothes for you, and a weapon. I kept my word, make me proud. Kami. Naruto picked the pile of clothes and looked them over. Well, it's pretty cool, and I definitely stand out just as much as with that orange jumpsuit. He changed into his new outfit quick. It was quite comfortable. It was a GI, similar to a karate one. Except the fabric was lighter, and moved easier. It was pure white with gold trim, and on the back in bold kanji it said, Kami's assassin. Naruto chuckled. Well, with this get-up on I'll only be considered a lunatic, instead of an annoying brat. Naruto then looked at Kami's weapon for him. It was a very long two-handed katana. The entire sheath was pure white like his GI, with golden kanjis all over it for various sins. The large handle had a golden guard and pommel, and was wrapped in black cloth. Naruto pulled the blade from the sheath and was amazed. The blade was completely black, yet shone like silver in the light. At the bottom of the blade were some more golden kanjis, one for sin, and another for death. Naruto chuckled again. Well, I must say the blade is completely badass. Naruto strapped the sword to his back and made and ate a quick bowl of instant ramen. I wonder what date exactly Kami sent me back to. Naruto finished his ramen and left his apartment, locking the door behind him, and he was so glad that he was seeing all the people he liked again in the streets, and he couldn't stop himself from grinning at the looks he was getting for his new outfit and weapon. Naruto finished his journey through the village and arrived at his destination, the academy. Naruto walked calmly up through the gates. If he had awoken at normal time this morning, he was already late and had no rush. Naruto walked through the now empty halls of the academy. He could hear the chattering of kids in classrooms, so yeah, he was definitely late. Naruto got to his old room and knocked. Iruka yelled for him to come in. Naruto slid the door open and looked in. He wanted to cry right then and there. He looked around and spied all of the rookie 9 and Iruka. Then he saw Sakura, fawning over Sasuke. He couldn't help it, forbidden tears flowed. Naruto walked into the classroom and everyone stopped what they were doing and looked at him. Iruka looked at him concerned. Naruto? Naruto smiled at him. Yeah, what's up, Iruka? What happened? You're crying, the clothes, the sword, and your body. Naruto whipped away the tears with his hand. Sorry, tears of happiness. And the clothes and sword were a gift from a friend. My body. What the hell's wrong with my body? Oh shit, I forgot, my physique. I was a shrimp way back when I was hiding it, henge. Iruka was shocked. The kid had done a complete 180 in one night. Last night he painted the faces of the Hokages, now he's this. Right, well, take your seat? You're late, as usual. Naruto nodded. Sorry about that. I won't be late from now on. I've had a life-changing experience. Naruto turned and walked up the steps, and he took his seat next to Sakura, who was next to Sasuke. Iruka started his lecture shortly after Naruto sat down, where he soon got extremely bored. Oh crap. I've heard all of this before. Damn, aha. Naruto put his face in his right palm and put his left arm on his desk, palm up, and he started to concentrate a bit, and a blue ball of chakra formed. Naruto started to shift its size and shape around a bit in his boredom, going from a tiny marble to a little larger than his palm, trying to stay small to avoid attention, but luck was not with him. Iruka saw the ball of energy he was holding and gasped, Naruto, what are you doing? He yelled. Naruto instantly slammed his hand shut, destroying the ball. I wasn't doing nothing. He yelled. Everyone turned to look at Naruto, and he was sitting there with his hands up defensively. Sasuke scoffed. Mind not interrupting, Dobi? Some of us actually care about being good shinobi. Naruto chuckled, and some of us already know all of this, and get bored hearing it twice. Don't worry, I'll try not to interrupt your lesson again, Sasuke. Iruka once again returned to his lesson, and when Naruto was sure no one was looking, he blurred through a set of hand seals and whispered quietly, Saishi Ui no Jutsu. And his genjutsu was up and running. His jutsu was one he created himself. It merely made it look like he was sitting there bored, hiding his true actions within a certain area. Let's see if I can make everyone sweat. Literally, Naruto summoned a ball of fire, then made it larger and larger. Then once he had it to about the size of a large beach ball, he summoned a very gentle breeze in the classroom. The wind slowly circulated around the room, spreading the intense heat of the ball, raising the room's temperature drastically. Naruto leaned back and relaxed, admiring his handiwork. Everyone in the room was sweating a lot. Everyone in the room had noticed the sudden temperature. They also noticed everyone was sweating badly, except Naruto. He was just sitting there looking bored. Sakura had noticed the extreme heat had been coming from Naruto, and she noticed he didn't look bothered in the slightest by the heat. He had to be the culprit. Sakura jumped up from his seat next to Naruto and yelled, Naruto baka, I know you caused all this heat, now cut it out. Sakura swung her balled up fist down very hard onto Naruto's head, except it was a genjutsu. Sakura's hand passed clean through Naruto's head and threw her terribly off balance, and she tripped. Naruto had been leaning back watching Sakura's outburst. He had expected the assault attempt, but definitely did not expect what came next. Sakura's swing threw her off balance and she fell forward, right onto Naruto. Their faces, and consequently their lips, collided together. Sakura had closed her eyes when she started to fall. She certainly didn't want to watch the floor come and smack her in the face. But she didn't feel the floor. She stopped mid-fall and landed on something warm, soft and yet hard, and her lips collided with something that was extremely warm and soft, and felt great. She opened her eyes slowly and she was looking straight into the very shocked depths of Naruto's eyes. Then she looked down at what her lips were against, and saw his own lips. Sakura screamed and shoved herself off of Naruto so hard that he himself went flying to the floor. Naruto landed on his back and Sakura glared down at him with righteous fury. You moron. You asshole, my first kiss was for Sasuke. Sakura stormed off, and stomped right on Naruto's chest as she stormed out of the room. Naruto lifted himself off the floor and got up and sat back down in his chair. Did what I think just happened really happen? Sakura kissed me? Granted it was accidental, but she totally was enjoying it until she saw it was me she was enjoying. Maybe I'll be able to win her over again sooner than last time. Naruto decided it would be better to be bored than to blow his cover. So he resigned himself to being bored out of his mind until the academy finally ended. Sakura returned to the room a few minutes later, still fuming over what happened with Naruto. The most troubling thing was she liked how it felt. A lot. But she had a reputation to keep, so when she walked back to her seat she knocked Naruto in the back of the head, pretty hard. The rest of the day went easily, if not slowly for Naruto. The end of the day finally came, and right before the bell went off Iruka announced, "Don't forget, your final exams are in 3 days." The bell then rang and all the kids bolted from the room. Or at least most of them. A few couldn't have cared less about speed. Naruto watched Sasuke leave and decided he would try to get on his good side sooner rather than later, like Kami had told him to. He caught up with him just off of the school grounds. "Hey Sasuke, can I talk to you for a minute?" Sasuke frowned. "What do you want, Dobi?" Naruto shuffled a bit. "Well, I was thinking, what say you and me be friends? The 2 strongest kids from the academy being friends would be good, not to mention we're going to be on the same team." Sasuke scoffed. "You, strong? And how do you know we will be on the same team?" Naruto smirked. "This was pretty easy. I've been planning this forever, acting as the weakest student so that you and me, the 2 strongest, would be put on the same team. I don't want to be stuck on a team with some weaklings, and neither do you." Sasuke snorted. "Yeah, because you know what I want, right?" TCH. Naruto's smirk transformed into a full-blown grin. "Well, yeah, I do. You want to kill your brother Itachi for killing your whole family. And with me working together with you, it will be all that much easier and more." Sasuke instantly glared at him. "How do you know about that?" "That's a secret." Naruto chuckled. "You'd be surprised what you can learn when you break into the Hokage archives a few dozen times and snoop around." Sasuke's eyes widened slightly. You broke into the Hokage archives dozens of times? Naruto's grin grew. I told you. I act like an idiot in the academy so that the weakest, me, and the strongest, you, get paired on the same team. Naruto jabbed his hand out before him. So, what do you say, Sasuke, friends? I can help you kill Itachi, not to mention everything in our shinobi careers will be easier with a powerful ally to help us. Sasuke hesitated for a moment, then grabbed Naruto's hand and smirked. Alright, fine, friends. Naruto nodded. Great. I just have one condition, stop calling me Dobi, that shit is annoying. Sasuke gave a quick bark of a laugh. Okay, I'll stop calling you Dobi. Dobi? Naruto cringed, and Sasuke couldn't help but smirk at his ability to make the blonde squirm. Naruto nodded eventually. Okay. Well, I guess I'll see you in class tomorrow, friend? Naruto then disappeared in a plume of smoke, startling Sasuke. How can he do that? Sasuke then went on his own way to his house, to think about the events that just unfolded before him. There was someone who wanted to be friends with him. Not because of his name or his reputation, just for him and his abilities. Naruto arrived at his apartment, and was bored out of his mind. Man, I can't do anything. I can't even train without gathering attention. Unless, yeah, that could work. Maybe. Naruto disappeared again and appeared before the Hokage office doors and knocked loudly. There was a loud knock on the door. He stashed his little orange book quickly and yelled, "Come in." The door opened and one Naruto Uzumaki walked in, but he was a lot different. Naruto? Sarutobi asked. Naruto grinned. Yeah, it's me. Before you ask, a friend gave me the new clothes and sword. Also, I have a request for you, a big one. Sarutobi grew serious. What is it that you want now? Not more money, I hope. Naruto shook his head. No. I request a pass to leave the village, to anywhere within 20 miles. I have a certain something I'm trying to do and I don't want anyone watching me, so I can't do it here in the village. Sarutobi frowned. You know I can't do that, Naruto. You aren't even a shinobi yet, and what is it that you can't do in the village? Naruto frowned. I can't tell you what it is, and that's a shame you can't do it for me. Guess I'll just be leaving the village without permission for a while. No biggie though, no one will know I'm gone. I'm too good to get caught. Sarutobi sighed. The kid had him cornered. He couldn't let him go rogue every little while. Fine, Naruto, I'll grant you a pass, but only 5 miles. Naruto nodded. Fine, at least I'll be out of visual range. I also want you to inform all the shinobi that if they feel chakra spikes coming from there not to investigate. Don't tell them it's me though. I really don't want anyone to know that I'm doing anything. Sarutobi narrowed his eyes, but nodded. Fine, they will be informed. When are you going to go and do whatever it is that you will be doing out there? Naruto grinned. Now. So if you could write up that pass real quick like would be great. Sarutobi narrowed his eyes at Naruto but took out a piece of paper and started to write out the pass for him. Once he finished it, Naruto snatched it up. Thanks again for this, Gigi. I'll repay you for it shortly, don't worry about it. Naruto then startled Sarutobi by jumping out of the window behind his desk, which was about 150 feet from the ground. Naruto sailed through the air and landed on the ground, making a small crater and sprinted off towards the village gates. Naruto arrived at the gates in just a few minutes of solid running. He walked up to the 2 Chunin guards and took out the pass from the Hokage. Yo, I'm leaving the village for a while. Be back somewhere around sundown. He handed the paper to the guard, who shrugged and let him pass. Naruto nodded to them and took off out into the forest. Naruto crossed the 5 miles that he was allotted in no time, and he found a small clearing right at the 5-mile mark. Good, this will work, though this clearing needs to be a bit larger for this to be any fun. Naruto started to release chakra rapidly, but he compressed it viciously against his body, so much so until he was merely a glowing human shape. He looked himself over. Oops. I might have overdone it a tiny bit. Hope this isn't too violent. Naruto released all of the chakra from him at once. It instantly exploded, tearing the clearing apart, along with everything within 500 meters of him. Every shinobi of the village felt the gigantic wave of chakra that washed over the village. It was an inhumanly large amount of chakra. There were shinobi showing up at the Hokage office constantly for the next 20 minutes. Sarutobi shook his head sadly. You're making my life so difficult, Naruto. What are you doing out there? Sarutobi took out his crystal ball and activated it. He found Naruto pretty easily and was extremely shocked. Naruto was standing in a gigantic crater, over 500 meters wide, and he was surrounded with thousands of different shinobi, all looking different and using different weapons. They were even from different villages. Naruto then pulled the long katana from his back and held it with both hands, and made a "bring it" gesture with his hand, and all hell broke loose. Kunai and shuriken were flying from everywhere at Naruto, who blocked a large amount of them, and somehow repelled another large amount. Some got through and lodged into his flesh, but he didn't even stop to look at them. He went on the offensive and charged into the groups of shinobi, using the sword as if he'd been using it for years. Naruto was taking out sweeps of shinobi, but when he hit them, some disappeared into puffs of smoke, and others took the hits and kept fighting, bleeding the whole time. Then when they would finally go down, they would puff into smoke. Sarutobi continued to watch Naruto decimate the legions of shinobi, and was completely surprised when Naruto formed a fireball that was extremely large in his hand, and threw it at a group of the shinobis, instantly obliterating them. He was even more surprised when Naruto formed a Rasengan. Then that Rasengan grew larger, until it was the size of a basketball, then grew blades of wind that started to shred Naruto's arm to bits. Naruto plowed through a group of over 50 shinobi before the Rasengan died. Sarutobi continued to watch, completely enthralled in the way Naruto so easily dispatched the thousands of shinobi, without ever stopping or tiring. He was completely surprised with the types of attacks Naruto had been using. He had used the Rasengan, yet it was different, better. He had even done some elemental attacks without using any types of hand signs at all. In that fight, Naruto had taken everything Sarutobi knew about him, thrown it on the floor and stomped it into nothingness. When all of the shinobi were finally gone, Naruto's hand glowed green, and he quickly swiped it over his arm to heal all of the wounds from the wind Rasengan, and was surprised when the arm of the Jie also repaired itself. Then Kami's voice echoed in his head, "Your clothes and sword can be instantly repaired if you add a little chakra to them." Naruto channeled some chakra to Higi and all the blood burned away, and all of the holes vanished. All of the blood burned off of his blade too, and it was as sharp as a razor. Naruto grinned. "Well, at least I won't need to worry about getting new clothes after every mission." Naruto quickly went over all of his wounds with a healing jutsu. He didn't need the jutsu, but it made him heal much faster, which was always good. "Guess I should work on my elemental control." Naruto went to the center of the clearing and created a small pillar of fire that continued to grow higher and taller, so high that eventually it hit the clouds themselves. Naruto then ended the pillar and started again. This time he summoned huge bolts of lightning to coalesce in the clouds and then form one gigantic bolt that crashed to the ground. Naruto continued making gigantic effects with his control. He ended with the decision to clean the entire clearing at once. He summoned multiple clouds to come together. They formed an enormous ball of water, then fell down to the ground. It impacted the ground and exploded outwards in all directions, completely washing everything from the crater. After Naruto was done with his training, he used the earth to fix the damage he caused to the clearing. In the end, the clearing had been reduced down to a clear area of dirt. Naruto headed back to the village and came up to the guards again. The sun was just starting to dip down to the mountains, just like he said. Naruto walked up to the guards. "Yo, I'm back." The guards instantly turned to him. "Hey, you were out there. Did you see what caused that gigantic wave of chakra earlier? Or what was causing all of that weird shit with the elements out there?" Naruto shook his head. "Nah, I saw them in the distance though. I was wondering what could have caused them." The guard snapped his fingers. "Damn. Here we were hoping you might have seen something cool. Anyway, get the hell out of here." Naruto grinned. "Gladly, I'll see you guys around." Naruto then left the gates and headed for his apartment, musing to himself, "So, the whole village saw my training? Haha, hope it proved a good show." Naruto made it back to his apartment and made another serving of ramen, then went to sleep. He had good dreams for the first time in years that night. Naruto woke up the next morning feeling better than ever. He flew through his morning routine and got to the academy before anyone else was even there. He sat on the same old swing that he used to sit on when he was sad. Now he was just here out of the need of a seat. Naruto merely sat on the swing, happy with the way things were going so far, and more kids slowly started to show up. Iruka eventually showed up and led them into the classroom, and was thoroughly surprised when he saw Naruto there, ahead of time. "Naruto, you're here early?" Naruto grinned. "Yeah, I had the best night of sleep I've had in years. Plus I told you that I wasn't going to be late from now on, even if it is only a few days. Naruto, Iruka and everyone else that was there went inside. Naruto went up and sat next to where Sasuke always sat. And he stared off into space and just thought about everything that he has been through in his life. More so though, how if he doesn't do things right this time, he'll have to live through it all over again. He was brought out of his thoughts by Sasuke shuffling past him and sitting in his own seat. Naruto smirked. Yo, what's up Sasuke? Sasuke smirked. Not much, Naruto. Everyone in the class stopped what they were doing and stared at Sasuke. Did he just talk to Naruto, willingly, pleasantly, and didn't call him Dobi? Naruto nodded and went back to spacing out, but it didn't last long. Sakura and Ino came bursting through the class doors arguing about who got to sit next to Sasuke. Then they saw Naruto sitting next to him, and focused their death rays. Note. Eyes, on Naruto. They both marched up the steps up to the deck Naruto and Sasuke were sitting at and stood before Naruto. What the hell do you think you're doing Naruto baka? Who says you get to sit next to Sasuke-kun? Sakura yelled. Naruto opened his mouth and was just about to respond when Sasuke did it for him. I said he could sit next to me. You have a problem with my friend sitting with me? Naruto just leaned back and grinned. He didn't expect that, but he supposed he wasn't going to expect a lot of new things. Sakura and Ino were both shocked. Scratch that. Everyone was shocked to the cores. Sasuke not only stuck up for Naruto, he said he could sit next to him, and he even called him his friend. Sasuke never called anyone a friend, ever, not once in his entire life. Sakura sat down in the seat next to Naruto, the seat he had sat in yesterday, and Ino trudged up the stairs and sat in the top row of seats, glaring down at Sakura and Naruto. Iruka cleared his throat, as it was his usual attention-gaining technique, and then started his lesson for the day. The day went by eventless and slowly. In fact, the rest of the class days went by that slow until graduation day. Everyone was seating and ready, and Iruka began his speech of how proud he was to teach them over the past years. As you all know, today is the day of your final exams, and it's the day you get your Hida Ite and become true shinobi, and adults in the eyes of the village. Some of you may fail, but don't give up, there is always next time if you do fail. Now then, we will be calling you into a separate room to take the test, so we will begin. Shino Aburame. Shino got up from his seat and silently walked off to the side room with Iruka and Mizuki, the other instructor. He came back a few minutes later with a Hite Ite in his hand and sat back down. Naruto put his head down. Uzumaki wasn't exactly early in the alphabet. 45 minutes later, Naruto finally heard his name get called and he walked off to the side room. He walked in and stood before Iruka and Mizuki. Should I pass it, or fail it like last time? I still can't do bunchins, but I could easily do a cage bunchin without them knowing I did one. Kami spoke to him once again, with her angelic voice ringing out in his mind. Fail the test, Naruto. I want you to kill Mizuki. He works with that snake Orochimaru, not to mention when he offers for you to steal the forbidden scroll. You can bring a blank scroll and copy more of the jutsus from it, and further increase your power. Naruto grinned. She was completely right. Then again, Kami is infallible, so she couldn't be wrong anyway. Iruka spoke. Okay Naruto, let's get going. First I want you to kawari me with something in this room. Naruto tapped his chin for a second before replacing himself with Mizuki, just to fuck with them. Naruto switched back with Mizuki again, replacing them both to their original places. Okay, easy enough. What next, Iruka? Iruka was surprised that Naruto was able to replace himself with another person. That normally takes years upon years of practice, so much so that most Junins couldn't do it. Okay. Next I want you to henjin to someone famous from the village. Naruto again tapped his chin for a second, then reappeared as the fourth Hokage. Iruka nodded, but noticed Naruto and the fourth looked a whole lot alike. Naruto then turned back into himself and Iruka spoke once again. Okay. Finally I want you to make between 2 to 5 bunchins. Naruto chuckled. Well, I fail. Even after all this time I still can't do bunchins, despite everything else I can do. You might want to take cover. Naruto did the hand sign for bunshin no jutsu, and focused his chakra. 2 bunchins formed on either side of Naruto. Naruto frowned. Iruka smirked. Conger. The bunchins violently exploded, blowing Iruka and Mizuki backwards into the wall. And Naruto was caught up in both explosions full blast. The dust from the explosion settled and Naruto was covered in blood and his gi was ripped apart and hanging from him in shreds. He got up and stood before them again. Right, sorry about that. It always happens, it's because I have too much chakra. Naruto put on a sad frown. Iruka frowned. I'm sorry Naruto, but you didn't complete the jutsu. I have to fail you, better luck next time. Naruto nodded. Well, it sucks but okay, though I'll never do the Bunshin jutsu just so you know. I've been trying to figure the damn thing out for years, never figured out how to make it stable. Naruto left the room without thinking to fix his gi, or to heal the deep lacerations that were all over him from the violent explosion that went off next to him. He walked out into the classroom and everyone looked at him, and the blood that was flowing off of him, and Sasuke spoke. Oi, what the hell happened? Did you pass? Naruto laughed. Nah. I failed miserably at the Bunshin jutsu. I have too much chakra and my Bunshins exploded. As you can see they make great weapons, he said, showing off the deep gashes all over him. But don't worry about it, this is just a formality. I have another way to pass. I'll be a genin by tomorrow. Naruto then continued walking and went outside to sit, sadly, on his swing. Once he sat he remembered about his gi and focused some chakra into it. It instantly started to reform, as good as new. His wounds had already closed and disappeared, so he didn't have to worry about the gi getting bloody. Naruto sat in the swing and just waited. Eventually everyone came outside and went home with their parents happily, well except for Sasuke, who left alone. Sure enough, Mizuki came over after everyone left to cheer him up. He told him about how he could steal the Forbidden Scroll and he would be given the title of genin if he could do it. Naruto happily accepted and left the grounds. Naruto got to his house shortly thereafter. He grabbed a large blank scroll and an inkwell and brush and then he left to go steal the scroll. 45 minutes later Naruto was in the forest outside of Konoha. Stealing the scroll had been far easier than his first time around, even though he did it in broad daylight this time instead of at night. He needed time to copy the scroll after all. Naruto opened up the Forbidden Scroll, and opened up his own scroll. He made a clone and had it get to work on copying all of the jutsus from the scroll, while Naruto went about learning one or two. He picked the next jutsu straight after Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Kage Bunshin Shuriken no Jutsu. It was a shadow clone jutsu except it cloned weapons, like kunai and shuriken. The jutsu was incredibly easy, like the Kage Bunshin was. Naruto got it down in no time at all, then he moved on to trying the next one he thought was interesting. Kage Tame Yukio no Jutsu, a jutsu that brings the user's shadow to life. It is similar to a shadow clone except that it was tied to the caster and it cannot go far from the user, but unlike shadow clones it cannot be dispelled by being attacked or hit. It is the caster's own shadow and cannot be destroyed. Now that is useful for close-range fighting. Naruto quickly learned the hand seals, and it turns out the jutsu was pretty easy to cast. It, like the other two forbidden jutsus he knew were only forbidden because of the huge amount of chakra they used. Naruto figured 2 was enough for now and he sat back and relaxed, waiting for Iruka and Mizuki to show up. He was going to pull the same thing he did the first time around, except this time it would be different. Mizuki would die. Naruto's clone finished copying the scroll and rolled it up and ran off to Naruto's apartment to drop it off for future use. The clone left just in time because shortly after Iruka showed up. Naruto, do you know what you've done? Why on earth did you steal the Forbidden Scroll? Iruka yelled as he dropped into the clearing. Naruto threw up his best grin. Iruka, I learned the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. That means I can be a genin now, right? Iruka looked confused. Why on earth would you think something like that, Naruto? Naruto looked confused. What do you mean, Iruka? Mizuki told me that if I took this scroll from the Hokage tower and learned one jutsu before sundown I could become a genin still. The evil chuckle permeated the trees. I knew the stupid brat would fall for that. Now I'm going to kill him, then I'm going to kill you, Iruka. I can't leave in witnesses now, can I? Mizuki jumped out of the trees, with a large Fuma shuriken in his grasp. Tell me, Naruto, do you know why the whole village hates you? It's because you are the demon they always call you. You have the Kyuubi sealed inside of you. You are the Kyuubi. Everyone hates you. Even your dear Iruka hates you. You killed his parents. Naruto did his best to look upset at the news. Mizuki threw his Fuma shuriken straight at the shocked Naruto. And Iruka jumped in the way. Shit, I forgot he did that. Iruka spoke to Naruto. That's not true, Naruto. I don't hate you. Once yes I did. Then I met you and realized you were like me, alone. You're not evil or a demon, and I will protect you. Iruka then collapsed from blood loss from the large wound in his back. Naruto smirked evilly and cracked his neck viciously. Good, now that Iruka is out cold I can take out the trash. Let me clue you into something, Mizuki. I doubt you will believe it, but that matters not. I am from the future, 10 years in the future. I know of Kyuubi, Helmi and him used to be buddies until he faded away. Mizuki roared. I knew it, I knew you were the demon. I'll kill you, and then I'll bring back the scroll, and I'll be a hero for killing the demon. Naruto laughed darkly. You? Kill me? That's rich. There is more to being from the future than just knowing more. I'm stronger too, far stronger. Hell, I'm stronger than Orochimaru, stronger than a cage. I am the strongest, not to mention I work for Kami, and she wants your soul. Naruto disappeared in a blink and reappeared directly in front of Mizuki, and planted his knee full on into his stomach, sending all the air from his lungs. Mizuki fell forwards onto the ground coughing and wheezing. Naruto slowly reached back and pulled out his sword. Feel proud, Mizuki, you are the first to die by this blade, but you are definitely not the last to do so. After I kill you I have to kill Orochimaru when he attacks during the Chunin exams, and I also have to deal with whoever else decides to mess with me, my friends, or Kami. Naruto raised the sword up high and swung down hard, cleanly severing Mizuki's head from his body. There was a large spray of blood from his headless body, which sprayed across Naruto's GI, soaking the front in crimson. Naruto sighed but didn't bother to clean it off. He picked up Mizuki's body and head with one arm and went and picked up Iruka and the forbidden scroll with his other arm. Naruto appeared before the Hokage's office and knocked on the door. Sarutobi yelled for him to come in and he opened the door and walked in. The door to his office opened and Naruto himself walked in, and Sarutobi gasped. The entire front of his GI was soaked in blood. Under one arm was a still bleeding Iruka. Under the other arm was the headless body of a Chunin that was pouring a significant amount of blood onto the floor. Naruto, what the hell happened to these two? Sarutobi yelled as he jumped up from his desk and ran over. Naruto took a deep breath and began, Mizuki tricked me into stealing the forbidden scroll, then he tried to kill me. Iruka jumped in the way and took a Fuma shuriken in the back, then I killed Mizuki. Sarutobi was surprised. Mizuki tried to kill you and Iruka? And then you killed him? This is most troubling. Tell me, Naruto, did you pass your genin exams earlier today? Naruto shook his head. Nope, that was how Mizuki tricked me. He said if I stole the scroll I would become a genin through a second way. Sarutobi tapped his chin and riffled through his desk drawers for a second before pulling out a Hite Ite and tossing it to Naruto. Well then, consider this Mizuki's promise fulfilled. You are now an official genin of Konoha. Naruto smirked, again surprised. Meh. It's the end result that matters, right? So what do I do with these two? Sarutobi thought again. Leave Mizuki's body here. I'll have you paid for a B-rank mission. It will also be added to your mission history. Fighting and defeating a Chunin on your own is nothing to laugh at. Then take Iruka to the hospital. He'll be good to go by class in the morning. Naruto nodded and dropped Mizuki's body and head on the floor. Then he put the forbidden scroll on his desk. Figure you might just want it back. Then switched Iruka to a bridal position in his arms and disappeared in a puff of smoke. Sunshin? Then again, anything Naruto does from now on shouldn't surprise me after what I saw him do the other day while training. Naruto appeared in the hospital carrying Iruka and he walked into the Hey, we need some help here. He's injured and has been bleeding fairly heavily for about 10 minutes now. A doctor ran over and took Iruka from Naruto. He set him on a bed and checked his wound. What happened to him? Naruto sighed. He took a Fuma shuriken in the back. That's all I can say for now until I'm cleared by the Hokage. The doctor grumbled but nodded and went back to taking care of him. Naruto then disappeared again and went back to his apartment. He cleaned his GI of the blood and went to sleep. Tomorrow was the day they met Kakashi after all. Naruto woke up the next morning and headed to the academy early, as he had the last few days. He was surprised to see Iruka already there sitting on the steps that led up into the building. Naruto went over and sat next to Iruka. Hey, how is the back injury, Iruka? Naruto asked. Iruka frowned slightly. It's alright. A bit stiff but nothing I can't work with. I heard about exactly what happened after I blacked out from Hokage-sama. Thank you for saving me and for dealing with Mizuki. Here I thought of him as a friend, then he goes and betrays everyone. I feel so used, you have no clue how it feels." Naruto laughed sadly at the irony. "You would be surprised how well I could understand that feeling." Iruka looked over at him confused. "Nani? What do you mean?" Naruto sighed. "Never mind Iruka." More kids started to show up and Naruto and Iruka went inside. After everyone had arrived and gotten settled in their seats, Iruka was about to start talking when someone asked, "Hey, where's Mizuki-sensei? Shouldn't he be here for this?" Iruka was about to explain how Mizuki had to do something when Naruto beat him to it. "Mizuki isn't here today, and he will never be here. Mizuki is dead." Multiple gasps were heard throughout the room. "Dead? But how? What happened to him?" Naruto grinned slightly. "I killed him. He tried to kill me and Iruka last night, so I killed him." More gasps were heard throughout the room. Then Ino asked, "What was it like to kill for the first time?" Naruto thought hard about it, but couldn't really remember what he felt the first time he killed. "I don't honestly remember, it was so long ago." Sweat drops all around. "Nani? What do you mean it was just last night, wasn't it?" Naruto sighed. "Just because I killed last night does not mean it was my first time killing. My first kill was years back. I don't really remember how it felt, but just remember, you're supposed to feel bad about taking a human life, but you can't let it get to you. You have a problem when you enjoy killing." Iruka nodded. "That is completely true, Naruto, and it is a great last piece of advice for all of you. Do not enjoy killing, but do not hate it so much that you hesitate when it could cost a life for a second's hesitation." Everyone nodded solemnly but were still slightly disturbed. Naruto was no older than they were, and his first kill was years ago. But Iruka interrupted their thoughts. "Now then, you've all passed the graduation exam, and now it is time to assign you all onto teams and tell you who your Chunin sensei is to be. Team 1, your members are." Naruto zoned until he heard his team number. Team 7 will be Sakura Haruno, Sasuke Uchiha. Sakura jumped up and squealed while throwing out the V for victory sign, and Naruto Uzumaki. Sakura instantly collapsed into her seat, pissed, and Naruto and Sasuke shared a satisfied smirk. "And your sensei will be Hitaki Kakashi." Iruka went on to announce the other teams and then at the end spoke, "All of your senseis should be here shortly, so stick around." Everyone shifted around to sit with their teammates, but Sasuke, Sakura and Naruto were already together. Naruto got up and started to head for the door when Sakura yelled, "Naruto Baka, didn't you hear what he said? They're gonna be here soon." Naruto looked over his shoulder and smirked, "I'm not worried about it. I'll be back in 2 hours, I'm gonna get some lunch, wanna come?" Sakura was about to scream at him when Sasuke interrupted her. "No, I think I'll be on time to meet our new sensei." Naruto's smirk widened. "Suit yourselves." He then walked out of the building. Sakura and Sasuke sat bored as team after team left with their senseis. After about 2 hours, Sasuke and Sakura were the only two left in the room. Finally the door opened and a masked man walked in. He even had his hite pulled down over his left eye. He looked around. "Team 7? Where's your third member?" Sakura stood up. "Naruto Baka went off to get lunch after the teams were announced, and hasn't come back." Kakashi hung his head and his silver hair drooped slightly. "Right. Meet me on the roof in 5 minutes. He disappeared in a puff of smoke. Kakashi nearly fell off the roof when he appeared and Naruto slapped him on the back out of nowhere. "Hey. Hitaki Kakashi, good to meet you." Kakashi regained his lost nerves. "Right. How did you know we were coming up here? And how do you know who I am?" Naruto grinned. "I was eating up here. I figured you would take us up here." "I would. I know you because, well, who wouldn't know the infamous copy nin?" Kakashi smirked. The kid knew his shinobi. Just then Sakura and Sasuke walked up the steps. They were both surprised to see Naruto on the roof already. The three sat against the railing on the roof and Kakashi sat on the steps. "Right, well, why don't we start by introducing ourselves? Names, things you like, don't like, hobbies, dreams, that sort of thing." Sensei, why don't you go first? We don't know anything about you," Sakura said. "Alright, my name is Hitaki Kakashi. I have many likes and many dislikes. My hobbies are mine alone, as are my dreams." Sakura face vaulted. "All we learned was your name, and we knew it already." Kakashi nodded. "Okay. Now you go, Pinky," he said while pointing at Sakura, who fumed at the name. "My name is Sakura Haruno. I like," glances at Sasuke. I don't like Ino Pig or Naruto Baka. My hobbies are glances at Sasuke. My dream is to glances at Sasuke and bursts into giggles. Kakashi mentally slapped himself in the face. Right. You go, he said pointing at Sasuke. Sasuke nodded. My name's Sasuke Uchiha. I like Naruto, I have many dislikes. I have no hobbies and my dream, no my ambition is to kill a certain man. Avenger, but it seems Naruto has gotten through to him. Perhaps he can help save him. Okay, you're up Blondie. Naruto narrowed his eyes at Kakashi. My name's Naruto Uzumaki, I like Sakura and Sasuke, and people who are nice to me. I hate anyone who threatens or hurts anyone I like, and will kill them. My hobbies are, training I guess. My dream is to save everyone I ever cared for from a certain enemy, kill a certain man. Do my secondary job, and marry the women I love. All three of the other people present were quite surprised. Who is this enemy? And this certain man you have to kill? If you don't mind me asking, Kakashi asked. Naruto shrugged. I can't tell you of the enemy, but the man I will kill is Konoha's largest threat, and biggest traitor, and the man who changed everything for me. Sasuke and Sakura didn't have a clue, but Kakashi knew that Konoha's biggest two traitors were Itachi and Orochimaru, but Itachi wasn't much of a threat to Konoha, so that meant Orochimaru. But how has he changed everything for Naruto? Right, so, tomorrow we've got our first mission. Survival training, Kakashi said. Sakura stood up. Kakashi-sensei, we already did survival training in the academy. Kakashi smirked. Not like this, you haven't been there at 8 am, and don't eat breakfast if you don't want to puke. Kakashi disappeared in a plume of smoke, and Naruto turned to his teammates. Guys, do me a favor, eat breakfast in the morning. Sakura turned to him with a look that clearly said, what, are you fucking stupid? Did you not hear what he just said, Naruto Baka? He said if you eat you'll puke. Naruto shook his head. It's part of the test, Sakura. My guess is that he's gonna do something involving depriving us of food if we screw up. Sakura blew off his explanation. Think what you want, Naruto Baka, but I'm going to follow the rules. Naruto sighed and hung his head in defeat. Even when he actually knew what was to come, they wouldn't listen to him. Well, if you won't eat breakfast, would you at least make some food and bring it with you? You're gonna regret it if you don't. A small vein bulged on Sakura's forehead. If I say yes, will you leave me the hell alone? Naruto nodded sadly. It seems that even though she had seemed to enjoy the kiss with him, she still had a long way until he was able to break her from being a fangirl. He might not even be able to do it, if he succeeds in keeping Sasuke in the village. Sakura turned away from Naruto to look for Sasuke, only to find that he had already left. She fumed for a moment about how Naruto Baka had ruined her chance, then she stomped off towards her own home. Naruto sighed at her antics but did nothing about it. Once she was out of view, he disappeared from the roof in a plume of smoke, to spend the rest of the day thinking of ways to deal with the test tomorrow morning. The next day arrived in no time flat, and Naruto arrived at the training ground mere minutes before Kakashi himself did. When Naruto arrived, he received a verbal lashing from Sakura, while Kakashi only received a, "You're late." Kakashi looked at the 3 genins before him and took out 2 bells and an alarm clock, which he set for noon. You 3 have until noon to get a bell from me. Those who don't get a bell get tied to the stumps over there, he said, pointing at the 3 stumps, and get to watch the ones that get the bells eat lunch. Also, those who don't get a bell get sent back to the academy. Sakura paled. But, Kakashi-sensei, there's only 2 bells there. Kakashi nodded. Correct, Sakura. Only 2 of you can pass the test, meaning at least one of you 3 is going back to the academy. If none of you get a bell, then you all go back. Naruto felt like making it easy for them, difficult for Kakashi. Bullshit. Kakashi quirked an eyebrow at the random statement. Nani? Naruto shook his head. I said it's bullshit. There is no such thing as a 2, or even 1-man genin squad. It's 3 or none, all or nothing. So either we all pass or none of us do, which means that all of this divide and conquer shit you're pulling on us is to make us work against each other, to make us fail. The real purpose is for us to be willing to work together, despite the obvious sacrifice of a teammate in the process to reach the end objective. After all 3 of us combined are still only 3 genin, and couldn't be expected to be able to outclass a Chunin, let alone Hitaki Kakashi, one of Konoha's strongest shinobi. So, the entire test is really just about us working together. Kakashi's eyes steadily widened as Naruto's explanation continued. He figured out the entire exam, and its purpose and hidden purpose before we even started? That's amazing, but maybe he's not sure. Are you entirely sure about that? Because there are plenty of two, even one-man genin squads. I even know quite a few myself. Naruto smirked. Kakashi was trying to instill doubt in his own reasoning. Sneaky move, Kakashi. I'm positive. It's true that there are plenty of two- and one-man genin squads, but they were not formed that way, not one. They all became that way from the squad losing a member for whatever reason, injury, promotion, removed from duty, death. Every genin squad started out as a three-man cell. Kakashi frowned. The kid didn't leave any openings for Kakashi to throw in false information to make him look wrong. This is your last chance to change your mind. Are you willing to sacrifice both of your teammates going back to the academy? Before Sakura could even open her mouth to tell Naruto to shut up, he answered, I would gladly risk both of them. They know the risk that comes with their chosen life, but I would not risk them without risking myself. But since you're still just trying to make me have second doubts, nor I am in any danger, so there is no risk to be put into. Kakashi sighed and hung his head. That wasn't fun at all. They even passed. In that case, you all pass. Congratulations. Sakura face vaulted and Sasuke smirked. Naruto threw his head back and laughed. After a moment, Kakashi interrupted him. Okay then, since it's still so early, let's go and get some D ranks done for the day, and get your careers on the road. Naruto paled at the memory of all of his old D ranks, and then of Tora the cat. Ah, shit. 3 weeks flew by in no time at all, with the team meeting almost every single day to do their D ranks, and today was the day that they were to get their bridge building C rank. The team walked into the Hokage's office. Sarutobi sat at his desk, smoking his pipe and smiling. Here for another round of D ranks, are you, Kakashi? He was about to respond when Naruto did first. Nope, we're actually here to pick up a C rank mission today, Gigi. Iruka, who had been filling in while the academy was closed, blew up at Naruto's statement. Are you crazy, Naruto? You've only been genin for 3 weeks, you're not nearly ready for a C rank. Naruto dropped an icy glaze at Iruka. That slightly unnerved him. No, I'm not crazy, and I would like you to never, ever call me it again. I'm confident, I know this team can handle any mission of any rank. Gigi knows it too, after all. You watched me train that day, didn't you, Gigi? Sarutobi's gaze fell to the floor and he suddenly felt guilty. You're right, Naruto, I did watch you that day. I'm sorry for not trusting you enough to leave you. Naruto waved it off. It's not a problem, Gigi. You had a reason to take interest in what I could have possibly been doing. It was an odd request and you had every right as the Hokage to want to know what I had been doing, and since I know what you saw, I know that you know we can take any mission you can hand out. I think a C rank sounds reasonable. Sarutobi smiled at Naruto's understanding and nodded, completely surprising everyone in the room. Naruto, a mere genin, just more or less told the Hokage what to do and he listened. No one ever did that. Okay, you win, Naruto. You're right, you're ready for anything that could be dished out. I know you yourself are ready. You've already done a B rank mission before you were even a shinobi, but your team is still new, so the only low-class C rank we have right now is an escort. A Mr. Tazuna back to Wave Country. And then protect him until he finishes his bridge. Sound good? Naruto grinned like a maniac. Perfect, we'll take it. Sarutobi nodded. Very well, Tazuna-san, you may come in now, he called. Tazuna walked in, and looked at the 3 kids before him. These brats are supposed to protect me? What are they, 13? And that blonde one looks crazy. Naruto disappeared before everyone's eyes and appeared before Tazuna with a kunai to his throat. Do not call me crazy, ever. Tazuna gulped and nodded. Naruto put the blade away before anyone even saw him move and went back to stand with his team. Everyone in the room was flabbergasted at the speed Naruto had moved at. Even Sarutobi didn't see him move. They all looked at each other with nervous glances before leaving the room with Tazuna to begin their trek to Wave. After they had all left the tower, Iruka turned to Sarutobi. Hokage-sama, what's happened to Naruto? I swear just over a month ago he was a bouncing energy ball that could barely do a henge, and now I couldn't even see him move just now. And his demeanor. He carries himself like someone many years older than himself, yet he tries to hide it. His clothes also make me worry. Kami's assassin? I really hope something isn't wrong with him. That sounds awfully close to a god complex. Sarutobi nodded sadly. I'm not quite sure what has happened to Naruto, but he is different now, like he matured, too much, overnight. He is also incredibly powerful now, though I have no clue how he did it, or what caused it. But I do not want to pressure him into anything, or try anything with him. I want to see what happens in time with him. Iruka sighed. I just hope nothing bad has happened to him, he's had a hard life. Sarutobi also sighed, you have no idea. He trailed off in the end, ghosting off to memories of Naruto's childhood, and the things he was subjected to. Team 7 and Tazuna had been walking for a few hours when they passed a small puddle, yet it hadn't rained in days. Naruto grinned, he knew exactly what was coming, this time it would go a bit differently, he continued as if he didn't know anything was up. The demon brothers rose from the puddle once the group had passed. They quickly dove for Kakashi and wrapped their chain around him. A second later Kakashi was raining through the air in bloody chunks. Sakura screamed bloody murder and the two nins flew straight for Tazuna. When the demon brothers were about 4 feet from Tazuna, Naruto suddenly appeared in front of them with his arms outstretched and his hands open. Before they could even react, they both slammed into Naruto's open hands, which instantly clamped shut like vices on their throats. The nins started to rip at Naruto's hands with their clawed gauntlets. They rended the flesh from his hands and sent blood and flesh flying. But Naruto remained unmoving. He didn't even flinch as his hands were ripped to pieces. He merely squeezed tighter, collapsing their tracheas and suffocating them to death. Once they stopped moving, Naruto loosened his grip and the nins' bodies fell to the ground in a heap. A second later Kakashi appeared and checked their bodies, then turned to Naruto whose hands were still pouring blood at a high rate onto the ground, forming pools below his hands. Sorry about that, I wanted to see if they were after us, or Tazuna. You handled it perfectly, Naruto, though you didn't need to kill them. I'm sorry about your hands. Those are horrible injuries. We have to return to Konoha immediately. If you don't get treatment for those wounds you will die, either from blood loss, or from the poison on their blades, and even if you do get treatment, they cause a lot of damage. I don't know if you'll ever be able to use your hands fully again. Naruto waved it off, which sent blood flying from his hand. Don't worry about me, Kakashi. These are but minor wounds. They'll be healed in no time. Plus I'm immune to almost every poison under the sun. Kakashi's eye widened. Nani? You're immune to poison? And how do you expect those to heal quickly? Almost all of the flesh is gone from your hands. I'm surprised you haven't passed out from pain, or blood loss by now. Naruto shrugged. They will heal quickly because of my condition, if you know what I mean, and I'd rather not go into detail about the poison or pain. But suffice to say that when you're subjected to it enough, it doesn't affect you anymore. These wounds don't hurt at all. It was partly true, at least. He had built up a poison immunity in his childhood from all the attempts on his life. But most of his immunity was from his demon blood. His extremely fast-paced healing was also due to his demon blood. A wound like this would take weeks to heal if he merely harbored the Kyuubi. Kakashi cocked his head slightly. Exposed to it enough? You're only 13, Naruto. How have you been exposed to poison enough to build an immunity? Naruto sighed and looked down. I'd rather not think about my childhood. Naruto's statement threw everyone off. What happened in his childhood to expose him to enough poison to make him immune? Were Sakura's thoughts. Kakashi frowned. He knew that Naruto had a hard childhood, but he never knew to what extent he was forced to suffer, or the degrees of danger he faced on a daily basis. He pushed his thoughts to the back of his mind and turned to the matter at hand. Tazuna-san, you have some explaining to do. Those shinobi were after you, not us. Tazuna sighed and told them his story of how Gato took over all of the shipping in Wave, destroying its economy and robbing it of its wealth, taking control of the country in the process. The only way to end his rule was to build a bridge so they could trade by land, but because of Gato's hold they had no money and could only pay for a C rank and hope they got a team capable enough to handle it. After hearing his story, Kakashi thought aloud. Well, if everything you said is true, then Gato is not going to tolerate failure, and will send more shinobi when he learns of these two failing. Next he will likely send more Chunins, or a Junin or more. I'll leave it up to my team whether they want to put themselves at a much higher risk and continue the mission. If we go against Junins and anything goes wrong on our parts, death is very possible, and likely. Sakura paled at the thought of dying on her first mission outside of the village. She didn't want to face more Chunins, let alone Junins. She knew she was by far the weakest of the group, but she knew Naruto and Sasuke-kun wouldn't take no for an answer, and she would risk anything for her Sasuke-kun, even her life. As he predicted, the team agreed to continue on with the mission, though he was surprised with the reason Naruto gave for wanting to continue when Kakashi asked him. Flashback. Kakashi turned to Naruto shortly after they began walking again. Naruto, why did you want to continue on with the mission so badly? Naruto turned to Kakashi and smiled. I once heard a motto, those who abandon their mission are trash, but those who abandon their teammates are worse than trash. When I heard that motto, it made me think of my own motto. Kakashi's eyes smiled. Really now, what would that be? Naruto closed his eyes and recited. Those who abandon their mission are trash, but those who ignore those in need are the scum of the earth. End flashback. Kakashi smirked at the thought of Naruto creating his own motto, based on a motto the fourth himself had created. The group continued walking for a while at a leisurely pace until they came upon a river. They walked down a dock where a man with a boat waited to give them passage. He was an old friend of Tazuna and was glad to help with finishing the bridge in any way possible. They reached the other side of the river before long and continued walking on their path. Though they didn't get very far, Kakashi yelled for everyone to get down, and Naruto tackled Sakura to the ground. Not a second as soon as a giant blade soared overhead and embedded deep into a tree trunk. A moment after the blade hit the tree, the one and only Zabuza Momochi appeared standing on the hilt of the blade, with a smug look on his bandaged face. So, you sensed my blade just in time to dodge. I would have expected better from the great copy Nen. Kakashi scoffed. I heard it coming from a mile away. Zabuza Momochi, demon of the hidden mist. Zabuza bowed to Kakashi. I see my reputation precedes me. I'd love to hang around and chit-chat, but I've got a mission to do. What say you make it easy for everyone and just hand over the bridge builder, and I won't have to kill you or your brats. Kakashi frowned. Sorry, but we too have a mission, and it happens to be to protect him, so, sorry I can't just hand him over to you. That would be bad for business. Naruto snickered at the banter between the Junins, and Sakura slugged him in the face and told him to take things more seriously. When Naruto got up from the punch, Zabuza laughed. You sure let her get a hold of you, brat. Naruto smirked at Zabuza. Yeah, well, it wouldn't be very nice to hit back now, would it? But I wouldn't mind kicking your ass all over the place. Zabuza laughed. In your dreams, brat. You couldn't even touch me on your best day. Zabuza's eyes widened when Naruto then disappeared, then reappeared behind Zabuza and slugged him in the kidney, knocking him from the blade, which he pulled from the tree as he fell. Naruto laughed at Zabuza's expression. I do believe I just touched you, and just so you know, today isn't even close to my best day. Zabuza turned and raised his blade to kill the genin for embarrassing him, when Naruto wagged his finger at him like a child. Sorry, Zabuza. Your fight is with Kakashi. That was just to shut you up about me not being able to touch you. Zabuza scoffed. TCH. Once he's dead, I'm gonna come and kill you slowly, brat. Naruto laughed. Well, you better kill me quickly, or you'll never be able to kill me at all. Naruto then jumped back to his position with Sasuke, Sakura and Tazuna. Kakashi took over for him from there and started fighting against Zabuza, Zanbato against Kunai. When he reappeared next to them, Sasuke turned to him. Oi, Naruto, how the hell are you so fast? I couldn't even follow your movement. Naruto smirked. A whole lot of training. I have a secret to why I'm as strong as I am. I will reveal it in time to you, don't worry. I'd also be glad to help you get stronger if you wanted. Sasuke smirked. Sure, why not? Need all the help I can get with killing him anyway. Naruto nodded and the two turned back to Kakashi's fight to find that the two had jumped out onto the lake and were fighting on the surface of the lake using water jutsus to try and out-muscle the other. Zabuza caught Kakashi off guard with a jutsu and Kakashi dove in the water to avoid it. When he surfaced, Zabuza was standing right above him with his palm over the water. Very stupid move, Kakashi. Now I'm gonna kill those brats in front of you. Then kill you. Kakashi suddenly felt the water around him grew incredibly dense, so much so that he couldn't move at all. Kakashi instantly realized the team was in without him to hold off Zabuza. Zabuza made 4 water clones that began to slowly advance on the group on shore. Run. Get out of here now. The water clones can't go a very far distance. If you get far enough, he can't pursue you. Naruto shook his head. The option of running went right out the window with you getting caught, Kakashi. Gonna have to do this the old-fashioned way. Naruto reached behind him and pulled his blade from its sheath. Everyone present marveled at the beauty of the blade. This was the first time they had seen Naruto remove it from its sheath. Naruto brought the long katana in front of him and got into a stance holding the sword with two hands and his feet spread out and his knees bent. He then blurred away for a second and the four Zabuza clones were instantly reduced to water. Zabuza looked at Naruto's stance and his blade. "Ah, so you're a swordsman as well, This should be interesting." Naruto shook his head. "Not really. With your arm stuck holding Kakashi in place you're just incredibly vulnerable. If I wanted to you would be dead already, but I don't want you dead." Zabuza laughed. "You're brat. Just because you landed a hit on me earlier when I wasn't expecting you doesn't mean you can do it again." Naruto grinned. "You're right, it doesn't mean I could, but then again, I don't want to hit you. Just make you move." Naruto tossed his katana up in the air, flicked his arm and a kunai flicked from the sleeve of his gi. Naruto threw the kunai at Zabuza and flashed through a quick hand seal, Kage Bunshin Shuriken no Jutsu. The kunai was instantly joined mid-air by about 150 more, all flying straight towards Zabuza. Zabuza paled at the number of blades flying his way. He hefted his Zanbato with his one free arm and brought it up in front of him and the barrage of kunai hit the blade, or went around him. When the barrage ended Zabuza laughed. "That was your ingenious plan." "It sucked." Naruto gave an evil chuckle. "Did it now?" Just then the original kunai he threw, which had missed him, poofed into a shadow clone, who whipped out a kunai and jabbed it at Zabuza. Zabuza ripped his arm from the sphere of water that was holding Kakashi and swiftly punched the clone in the face, dispelling it. Kakashi, who was on the verge of blacking out from oxygen deprivation, collapsed onto his hands and knees coughing and gasping for air. Zabuza chuckled. "Congratulations, brat. You now have my full attention on yourself, prepared to die, though I bet you can't even walk on water." Naruto shrugged and stepped out on the lake, and didn't fall in, completely surprising all of his teammates yet again. "You underestimate your opponent far too much, Zabuza, you may just regret it." Naruto placed his sword across his arms and flashed through another quick set of seals, Kage Tame Yukio no Jutsu. Naruto's shadow, which was being cast on the surface, slowly rose up as a black shape of pure darkness. Then it took the form of a person and turned into a clone of Naruto, with his sword and everything. The shadow turned to Naruto. "Time for fun?" Naruto nodded. "Indeed it is." The two tandem Narutos raced at Zabuza side by side with their swords raised, and Zabuza again laughed. "Your big attack is an illusion? And there's only two of you? That's not very good at all." Once they were within range, Zabuza swung his blade horizontally at the two Narutos. It slammed into the Naruto on the left's waist and cleaved right through the Naruto. That Naruto's legs splashed down into the water and disappeared. "Well, there goes the illusion." Just then the dead illusion swung up and a new lower body shot out of its torso, planting its feet firmly in Zabuza's stomach, sending him flying back a good couple of feet. Zabuza landed on the water and looked at Naruto. Once again two of them were standing side by side. "What the hell happened? I just cut that thing in half." The two Narutos cocked their heads to the sides and spoke at the exact same time. "Nani? No, you didn't." Zabuza was completely confused. He could swear he just cleaved that thing in half a second ago, yet here it was, plain as day, still standing. Naruto flashed through a single hand seal quickly and called out, "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu." Just then 20 more Narutos mixed in around Naruto and the freak clone. The group all charged at Zabuza and surrounded him and started to attack. Zabuza would lash out at all of them. Sometimes he would nail one and it would poof away, sometimes they would parry him. But what really fucked with him was sometimes he would clearly hit them, and nothing at all would happen to the one he hit. That was Naruto's shadow, but he didn't know it. The group of Narutos continued to take shots at Zabuza, slowly nicking him more and more with their swords, and confusing him further and further with clones that wouldn't dispel when attacked. Zabuza finally cut down the last shadow clone and Naruto decided to knock him out now, or else something bad might happen with the timeline. Right after the last clone was dispelled, Naruto summoned a column of water. It came barreling out of the lake and smashed straight into Zabuza. It carried him clear across the water back towards Naruto's team, and smashed him straight into, and through a tree. He then contacted with a second tree behind it and didn't break through. After the impact, the column receded completely back into the lake. Naruto and his shadow walked back off of the lake and over towards Zabuza, but right before they got close to him, two senbon suddenly flew into his neck and he stopped moving completely. Seems Haku is still right on target. The masked hunter Enin then came out and took Zabuza away. Once the nin left with Zabuza, Naruto turned back to the group with his shadow. Kakashi had managed to get to shore during Naruto's fight with Zabuza, but he passed out at that point. Naruto turned to Tazuna. Would you take us to your house please? Kakashi is going to need a place to rest for a couple of days. Tazuna nodded and headed off towards his house. Sasuke and Sakura followed right beside him. Naruto's shadow hefted Kakashi up and carried him to the house. The group arrived at Tazuna's house and Tazuna went in first. Tsunami, Inari. I'm back and I've brought shinobi from Konoha to protect me while I finish the bridge. A woman who looked to be in her mid-20s appeared from the corner. She had long brown hair and fairly normal, housewife, clothes on. She gave Tazuna a hug. That's great, Dad. Tsunami then noticed the ninjas and the twin Narutos. Naruto nodded to her. Hello there, Tsunami-san. Do you have a room we could put Kakashi here in to rest? He's a bit worn out from his fight. Tsunami nodded. Sure, yeah we do. Follow me please. Naruto created a quick cage bunchen and his shadow gave Kakashi did. Then his shadow dispelled and returned to its natural place on the floor. Team 7 then sat down for a nice home-cooked meal made courtesy of Tsunami. A separate plate was set out for when Kakashi woke. During dinner Naruto laid out the plans for what was happening and what they would do for the time. Okay, so we've got things to do, and not much time for it. Zabuza isn't dead. Just so you guys know, he'll be back in about 6 days. That hunter nin works with him, and was saving his life. So during these 6 days we're going to train like crazy to get prepared for his return. After that we fight Zabuza, defeat him. Help Tazuna complete the bridge. Then go home to Konoha and get paid for an A- rank mission. Sakura and Sasuke were astonished that Naruto was able to figure out the whole situation so quickly and easily, and Sakura spoke her mind. Naruto, when did you get so good at all this stuff? I mean just a couple of weeks ago in the academy you were the dead last, worst kid in the class at everything, now I just don't know. I mean you just went head to head with an infamous Chunin and won, and you didn't even look like you were trying. Not to mention how you changed so much a few weeks ago. You went from being an immature failure, to this mature, serious powerhouse. You even act older, not like your age, I mean you act like Kakashi does, you're just so different. Sasuke nodded in agreement, and Naruto sighed. There is a reason for every single one of those changes, but I just can't reveal it yet to you guys, but I will in time, don't worry. They were miffed that their teammate was blatantly hiding things from them. But they couldn't really do anything about it, so after dinner everyone merely kept to themselves and went to bed. The next morning Kakashi woke up from his exhaustion from his fight with Zabuza. After everyone ate a nice breakfast that Tsunami so nicely made for them they headed out into the woods. After walking for a while they entered a clearing with some trees on the border. Kakashi turned to the group and spoke. Everything Naruto said yesterday was spot on. Zabuza isn't dead and we only have a few days before he comes back to finish Tazuna. So during this time, you're going to train like crazy until he comes back. You have to be as prepared as possible when we go up against him next time. It is likely that the hunter nin that was with him will be there to help next time. Sasuke and Sakura nodded. So, what kind of training are we going to be doing, Kakashi-sensei? Sakura asked. Kakashi's eyes smiled. You're going to be climbing trees. Sasuke and Sakura paled. Did you say, climbing trees? Sakura asked. Kakashi nodded. Yes I did. This will greatly help you train your chakra control. The feet are the hardest place to consciously focus your chakra, so if you can do it like second nature there, then you can do it anywhere. Sakura looked confused. Wait, how is climbing trees going to help us train with chakra? Kakashi's eyes smiled again. Because, you won't be using your hands to climb. You use your chakra to glue your feet to the tree and walk up the side. Like so? Kakashi walked up to the tree, and proceeded to walk straight up the side and out onto a branch upside down. Use these kunai to mark your progress up the tree. He tossed 3 kunai before the genin, then jumped from the tree and landed on his feet before them. Okay, good luck and don't use up all of your chakra, or you might hurt yourself. Kakashi started to walk from the clearing and Sasuke and Sakura both picked up their kunais and started at their trees. Naruto whipped the kunai from the ground and spun it on his index finger. Kakashi, here I don't need one. Kakashi spun around and caught the kunai right as it came close to him. Why not? he asked. Naruto grinned. Were you not there during the fight? I can already climb trees and walk on water. So I'm going to be doing my own little bit of training. Kakashi cocked his head to the side slightly. Really? What kind of training are you going to be doing exactly? Naruto grinned and flashed through a set of hand seals. Kage Tami Yukio no Jutsu. Naruto's shadow came up from the ground in a black shape, and turned to look like Naruto. They both drew their swords in sync. Kenjutsu training. The two Narutos jumped apart and went at it. Parrying, dodging, sweeping blows, everything. Naruto landed a slice to the shadow's left arm. Removing it from the clone, it merely disappeared and a new one replaced it. Kakashi's eye widened as the fight went on. He had never heard of a clone that was literally formed from the user's shadow, and could fight, and take hits and keep going. Naruto, where did you learn that jutsu? I've never heard of a clone that could take multiple hits. Naruto and the clone stopped their match and turned to Kakashi, and Naruto grinned. Oh? I got it from the scroll of forbidden jutsus in the Hokage tower. Remember I stole it a few weeks ago? I felt it would be useful to learn the jutsus in it. I take it you've never read it then? Kakashi shook his head in a definitive, no. Naruto, only the Hokage is to look inside the scroll. Those jutsus are incredibly powerful and dangerous. Naruto grinned. That's what makes them so good, plus they aren't half that bad. Most just use enough chakra to kill the user in one use. Most of the jutsus are quite useful actually. I've learned a good few of them since I saw the scroll. Can't wait to get to try one of the more powerful ones out. Kakashi narrowed his eye at Naruto. Naruto, what's the highest level jutsu that you know from that scroll? I know that the Kage Bunshin is an A- rank, Chunin technique, that shadow one looks to be higher. Naruto grinned. Well, the highest level jutsu in the scroll that I know is sulfur monosulfide rank, though it's not the most powerful jutsu I've ever seen. Kakashi's eye widened. You know in sulfur monosulfide rank jutsu Naruto? What one? Naruto chuckled. Well, if I told you that would ruin the surprise wouldn't it? Kakashi sighed in defeat and left the clearing. Naruto and his shadow went back to their match. Later on he started to add in large groups of hanged Kage Bunshins to mix in with his shadow. And he found it really would mess with a person's mind. Especially if the shadow was hanged too. You wouldn't know which ones will actually die when you land a blow, and which ones would just keep coming at you. In the end Naruto ended up having a fierce Kenjutsu battle with about 75 clones, all hanged into different people. Naruto ended up winning, but he was littered with cuts, and his GI was shredded. Though that was easily fixed with a pumping of chakra. At sundown Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura all headed back to Tazuna's house. Sakura had easily made it to the top of the tree with her fantastic chakra control. Sasuke had made it up over halfway, and was still improving. They all arrived at the house just in time, as Tsunami was just setting out the plates of food for everyone. They were all having a great time eating, and making conversation when the coming fight with Zabuza arose to the conversation. Naruto easily dismissed it. PSSH. Zabuza won't be anything to worry about when he comes back. We'll kick his ass like we did before, then we'll kick Gato's ass and free this country from his tyrannical reign. Inari stood up from his chair at the table and yelled, "You're all fools, you're going up against Gato. You're going to die." Naruto laughed. You seem to be underestimating us. I am much stronger than I look, as are all of my teammates. Inari threw his arms in the air and shouted, it doesn't matter how strong you are. Gato has entire armies of mercenaries and thugs. You don't know the kind of suffering he's put the people through here. You don't know the pain he's put us through. Naruto had vaguely remembered Inari's outburst from long ago, yet he still couldn't stop himself from responding to being told he didn't know what it was like to suffer. He slammed his fist into the table, sending a deep crack through the solid wood construction. Silence. Naruto stood from the table as well. Do not preach about how you've suffered to those you know nothing about. We've suffered more than you could dream. Kakashi's father was one of the most famous shinobi of our village. Kakashi got to watch him commit suicide in shame of a failed mission. Then he got to watch his best friend get crushed to death on a mission. He then got to watch the love of his life kill herself in grief over their teammate's death. Then he got to watch his sensei die in the Kyuubi's attack to our village. Sakura's father was killed in the Kyuubi attack as well. She's had no father her entire life. Sasuke lost multiple members of his clan in the Kyuubi attack. Then he lost every single relative he had in a massacre that was done by the hand of his own brother. Naruto chuckled, and me? I've had the shittiest life that ever existed. Both of my parents were killed the night I was born, in the Kyuubi attack. Then I grew up to be hated by almost every living soul in my village. I've had more assassination attempts on me than any other shinobi in my village, and that was by the time I was 6. I've been beaten, tortured and abused until I entered the academy at 10. Even then I was still harassed and abused daily. Naruto dropped the small genjutsu he used to hide his scars and opened his gi, revealing his bare chest and white pants. His entire body was covered in deep, jagged scars. After that I went on to become a shinobi. Not long into that a man came and corrupted my best friend into a lunatic. That man then went on to kill the man I saw as a grandfather. My best friend turned lunatic went on to kill the man I saw as a father, the women I saw as my mother, and the love of my life less than 3 weeks after we were married. Then he went on to kill every single person I had ever come to love or befriend. Naruto clenched his fists tightly and continued. Do not tell us that we do not know what it is to suffer, for it is you who doesn't know what it means to suffer. So your father was killed, who cares? Everyone I ever cared for was killed before my eyes, by the first person I had ever considered a friend. Naruto disappeared after that in a burst of flame, almost setting Kakashi on fire, who had been sitting next to him. Everyone was astonished at what Naruto had said. The shinobi were completely startled that Naruto known so much about them, and they were further confused by Naruto's speech about his own life. Sakura had tears streaming down her face, both at the memory of the father she never knew, and the life Naruto had described for them. Kakashi-sensei, what was Naruto talking about with his own life? He described his life as if he is a lot older than he is. He even said he had been married, and that his wife was killed. Was he just making that all up? Kakashi was also deep in a rut of sadness at the memories of his life that Naruto had dragged up, and he hung his head sadly. I'm not sure, Sakura, but somehow I doubt that he was lying about it. I'll be back. I intend to find out exactly what is going on with Naruto. Kakashi then disappeared in a plume of smoke, intent on finding where Naruto went. He didn't have to look for long to find the trail Naruto left. There was a 20-foot wide path through the forest that had been incinerated to ash. Kakashi followed the trail and eventually came across Naruto sitting on a fallen tree trunk crying silent tears. Kakashi walked over and sat next to Naruto. Naruto, what exactly is going on with you? Naruto turned away from him. I don't want to talk about it. Kakashi grabbed his shoulder and forcefully turned him back to face him. It's a bit late for that. You can't go and say things like you did and expect us to not want answers. I'd like to know what exactly happened to you. How do you know so much? How are you so strong? And what the hell were you talking about with your life back there? A wife? And a best friend turned lunatic? I want you to tell me what is going on with you. Naruto shook off Kakashi's arm and turned away again. Even if I did tell you, it's not like you would believe me anyway. You'd probably call me crazy and try to lock me away. Kakashi looked at Naruto's back, and noticed exactly what the back of his gi said, and he also looked at the kanjis all over his blade, and somehow he thought that Naruto might have had some weird shit happen in his life. Naruto, you can tell me. I'm supposed to be here to help you. If you can't even trust me with a secret, I'm not being very helpful, am I? Also, I will not think you're crazy no matter what you say. Naruto sighed and turned back to facing out towards the forest. I doubt that, but fine. I'm from the future. Regardless of how crazy that sounds, Kami sent me back to fix everything that went wrong in my time. Kakashi's eye widened. He was right, Naruto sounded absolutely bonkers, yet it explained everything all at once. Him handling himself like he was older, knowing more, being more powerful, and his strange past he described at dinner. Okay, that explains a lot. Just how far in the future exactly? And what exactly went wrong in your timeline? Naruto sighed. 10 years, I'm 23. And, what didn't go wrong? Orochimaru got to Sasuke during the Chunin exams. He gave him a curse seal that slowly went on to turn Sasuke into a power-hungry, vengeance-driven lunatic. Orochimaru went on to kill Hokage-sama. Sasuke abandoned the village to work with Orochimaru. When he was powerful enough, he killed Orochimaru, then went after me to get the Mangekyo Sharingan. He killed every person I ever loved. He killed Jiraiya. He killed Tsunade. He killed you, and Sakura. All of the rookie 12, and every other person I ever came to care for in my life. He even came and killed Inari. Then after all of that I was just about half a second from killing myself when Kami appeared and told me how none of it was planned, how Orochimaru started it all by screwing with her plan and destroying Sasuke. So she sent me back in time as her assassin. I'm to kill Orochimaru and restore the correct path she wanted things to follow. Then I'm to kill targets that she designates to be risks to the timeline's correct path. That is everything in a nutshell. Kakashi was overly stunned at the wealth of information Naruto dumped on him all at once. He tried to speak as he processed the information but failed. That is a lot of things to go wrong. So how exactly are you planning to accomplish all of this? Naruto shrugged. So far everything has been following the same paths more or less, except for things I change myself. So I figure I'll kill Orochimaru when he shows up in the Chunin exams, though from there everything is going to be weird. I have no clue how things go from there, but I figure I'll sort them out as they go, and solve any problems that come up. Kakashi was still stunned at everything. Are you strong enough to take on Orochimaru and win? I mean, even being 23, I'm not sure if you would be strong enough. Naruto sighed. Well, I might as well tell you this anyway since everything is just flying out of the window. I'm not human. In my timeline the Kyuubi's seal finished its course and the Kyuubi was dissolved and his power was given to me. But something happened and his chakra was much more powerful than anticipated, so it kind of turned me into a nine-tailed demon. I have all of the Kyuubi's power. I think I technically am the Kyuubi now, but I don't know how to go about claiming my title for real. That was the last straw. Kakashi fainted. From shock and information overload. Naruto sighed, chuckled at his limp form and picked him up and carried him back to the house. When Naruto go back to the house and set Kakashi in his bed, he was bombarded with a round of questions by Sakura and Sasuke, who were both fed up with being kept in the dark, so Naruto decided to tell them too. He brought them both outside, down onto Tazuna's dock and explained everything to them. He left out key things though. He didn't say that it was Sasuke who killed everyone. He didn't say Sakura was the girl he married. He didn't say anything about Orochimaru or the things that happened with the timeline. He just kept it a vague, was sent back to fix things that went wrong with the timeline. He also did not tell them about the Kyuubi. He would wait until they knew him better for that. Revealing too many secrets too fast could destroy their friendship. In the end Sasuke and Sakura knew that Naruto was from the future, was 23, and was very strong and was in the past to fix things that went wrong. With everyone's curiosity sated they went back to the house. Naruto apologized to Tazuna and Tsunami and offered to pay for the table being fixed. But they said him protecting Tazuna was more than payment enough. Everybody went to bed after that. They had a lot of training to do over the next few days after all. The next few days went by easily, with Sasuke and Sakura continuing to work on their chakra control. Since Sakura mastered tree climbing so easily, she moved on to water walking, which she also got easily. Though water walking took more chakra, so it helped her build her reserves better. On the fourth day Naruto had trained himself into the ground. Since he could train to almost his full extent now with them knowing his power, he went all out, fighting thousands of shadow clones at a time, doing high-ranked jutsus in a full-fledged 2000-to-1 war. Naruto ended up passing out in the woods, and Sasuke and Sakura just left him there. They were too exhausted themselves to try and haul him back. He was heavy after all. The next morning Haku came into Naruto's clearing, where he was still sleeping soundly. He instantly recognized him as the boy who, seemingly easily defeated Zabuza. He realized this could be her best chance to take out their would-be toughest adversary. He moved across the clearing and reached out with his hand towards Naruto's throat. Right as he had his hand about 3 inches from his throat, his arm shot out from his side and locked around his wrist with a vice-like grip. Haku winced in pain from the amount of pressure he was putting on his wrist, and realized he was still breathing slowly. Snoring, in fact, he was still asleep. Haku reached out with his other hand and did the only thing he really could do. He shook Naruto awake. Naruto opened his eyes and realized it was Haku that was kneeling next to him. He smiled at him. Well, hello there. Haku glanced at him nervously. Could you let go? He said, motioning towards his still trapped wrist. Naruto looked at his wrist and realized he was holding him and released him. Sorry about that. Kinda react to people attacking me in my sleep in a harsh way. Haku was amazed. His body would react to threats on its own without him being awake? That was truly amazing. What are you doing out here in the woods? Naruto grinned. This was going almost the exact way as the first time round. I was training and I overdid it and passed out here. What are you doing out here? Haku smiled. I was getting some medicinal herbs for a friend when I came across you. Why are you training? You look pretty strong to me. Naruto grinned. Well, just because I'm strong doesn't mean being stronger can't help. After all, with the fight I have coming up in a while I need all the practice I can get. Haku flinched ever so slightly. So, they know that Zabuza-sama is still alive? So, you have a difficult fight coming up then? Is your opponent strong? Naruto nodded. Yeah, he's one of the strongest shinobi in the world right now, but I'll kick his ass. I can't afford not to, not with the price that's on the line. Haku was shocked now. Zabuza-sama is strong, but he isn't one of the strongest shinobi in the world. I wonder. Who exactly is this opponent, if you don't mind me asking, and what is so important that you need to protect from him? Naruto smirked. His name's Orochimaru. He used to be one of Konoha's Sannin. I'm killing him to protect all of my precious people from a horrible series of events. Haku's eyes widened. Orochimaru. He's listed as above S-class in the bingo book, and he's completely confident he can kill him? This could be very bad for Zabuza-sama and I wish you the best of luck. Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto filled in for him. Haku smiled. Right. Naruto, it was nice meeting you. Perhaps we'll see each other again sometime. Naruto gave a knowing grin. Oh yes, we will be seeing each other again. Most definitely, I'll see you tomorrow in fact, Haku. Haku's eyes widened once again and he instantly dropped into a fighting stance. How do you know my name? Naruto chuckled. I know much more than I should know. I also know that Gato intends to kill you and Zabuza once you kill off the bridge builder. He feels mercenaries are much cheaper, though I doubt you will take the advice. Do not come to the bridge in 2 days. It will be the death of Zabuza, and possibly yourself. Haku was flabbergasted. That rat intends to kill us? How do you know such things? Naruto shook his head. I cannot tell you how I know that. I can only say that it's true. Whether you follow the advice or not is up to you. Though I doubt Zabuza will let a second chance to fight me go to waste. Haku frowned. He was right. Even if what he said was true, Zabuza was now in this fight for his reputation. It was beyond a mere mission now, it was a right of honor. You are right, Naruto-san. Zabuza will want to fight you no matter what, so it seems I will see you in tomorrow. Naruto nodded sadly. I'll see you then, Haku. Zabuza is going to die, just so you know. Haku's frown deepened and he walked from the clearing mulling over his thoughts. Should he tell Zabuza? Or could it be some kind of trick by the blonde to get them to give up in their mission for Gato? He couldn't tell. Naruto got up and sighed. He knew more or less what was going to end up happening, but this time around he wasn't going to let Haku's stupid infatuation get him killed. He would save him. He left the clearing as well, and headed back to the house to grab some breakfast. Naruto spent the rest of the day training as hard as he did the day before, and he ended up passing out again in the woods. Even though he had decided to do things differently this time, he still managed to work too hard. He woke up the next morning in the woods, and noticed it was already late morning judging by the sun. Shit. The fight probably started already. Naruto quickly was fully awake and took off towards the bridge. When he got close he remembered about Tsunami and Inari and raced back to the house. He arrived in time to see 2 thugs with swords knock Tsunami out. Naruto grew more and more furious as the thugs discussed the things they would do with Tsunami, and decided they weren't worth letting live. Naruto drew his sword and appeared behind one of the thugs, with his sword jammed through his chest and heart. Naruto ripped his blade from the thug's chest and a quick spurt of blood followed his blade from his chest. The thug coughed up one big hack of blood on the ground and collapsed dead. Naruto turned to the other thug with a cold look in his eye. Time to pay for past sins. Before he could even turn around to run, Naruto rammed his blade through the thug's abdomen and ripped it upwards, splitting his torso from lower abdomen to his throat. Numerous organs dumped out of the open cavity and piled out on the floor in a gruesome bloody muck. Naruto merely shook his head at the sight and channeled some chakra to his blade to burn away the blood. He then picked up Tsunami and placed her on the couch, along with Inari, who had also been knocked out for being too troublesome. He then took off towards the bridge. Naruto arrived at the bridge in the midst of the heat of the battle. Kakashi was combating with Zabuza, and was on the losing end, or so it seemed, and Sasuke was fighting Haku in his dome of mirrors. Naruto knew this time that Sasuke would not die in the fight, but he also knew that Kakashi would probably win in his fight against Zabuza. He did last time at least. Naruto stood there for a moment, watching the fight, not exactly sure where he should go to help. Then something he didn't expect to see happened. Zabuza landed a deep slash across Kakashi's back and Kakashi collapsed to his hands and knees. That didn't happen last time. Naruto decided he would take over for Kakashi again. Maybe the revelation of everything I told him is distracting him and hindering his performance. Naruto drew his blade once again and took off towards Zabuza. At the same time he summoned a gust of wind to clear away all of Zabuza's mist from his jutsu. Naruto met with Zabuza, who brought his blade up just in time to deflect Naruto's vicious diagonal swipe. Zabuza rapidly went on the defense as Naruto unleashed a flurry of fast slices on him. He parried or dodged the large majority of the strikes, but a few of them got through and landed a decent slice into Zabuza's flesh. Though they were superficial strikes, no major organs struck or arteries severed. Naruto shook his head as the two traded blows with each other. Zabuza, you should really stop this foolishness. Before I came here I stopped at Tazuna's house. Gato sent mercenaries to take his daughter hostage so they could kill him easily after he killed you. Zabuza laughed, like I care about the mission. This is all about me and you. Those cheap tricks you used on me last time won't work on me again. I will defeat you this time. Naruto sighed. No, you won't? Naruto glanced over and noticed Haku was just about to knock out Sasuke into a near-death state. I'm sorry Zabuza. But I have to end this now, or Haku will get dragged into it and will die as well. Regardless of what you say in his regard, I know you care of him. So for his sake, I will kill you before he can interfere. Naruto blurred away at the end of his speech and appeared behind Zabuza and cut him deeply across the back twice in a large X, and then rammed his blade through Zabuza's liver, a most definite fatal wound. Naruto pulled his blade from Zabuza's back and blood instantly started to rapidly run from the wound, adding to the blood running from the deep gashes on his back. Zabuza collapsed to his knees, and Haku dashed over now that Sasuke was out cold. Naruto turned to Haku with a sad look on his face. I'm sorry Haku, I said that on this day Zabuza would die, there was no avoiding it. Haku collapsed onto his knees before Zabuza. Zabuza-sama. I failed you, I wasn't fast enough to save you, I have failed as your tool. Zabuza coughed up a bit of blood. You're right, you did fail me as a tool Haku. But, I don't care about that. The brat is right, I care for you as more than a tool, and now that I'm dying, go and live your life as you see fit. Be no one's tool, make your own dreams and live to pursue them, not someone else's dream. Just then Gato and an army of about 250 mercenaries appeared at the end of the bridge. Gato looked at Zabuza, and the pool of blood he was in, and at Haku kneeling before him. So, you were so miserable that you couldn't even deal with a few kids Zabuza? And your brat is alive too huh? I'll make him die slowly. Zabuza growled at Gato and turned to Naruto. Hey, brat, I have some things to ask of you. Naruto nodded. Sure thing, what do you need? Zabuza coughed up another bit of blood, but continued. First, kill that pig bastard and his men for me. Be a hero to this country and save them. Second, take my blade. Honor me as a swordsman and claim my blade and honor it. Third, make sure nothing bad befalls Haku in his life. Naruto nodded. Sakura was far enough away, so he added a little bit of reassurance. I swear on my honor as a swordsman, and as my honor as the nine-tailed demon lord, that I will honor your wishes. Zabuza and Haku's eyes widened when Naruto mentioned his honor as the demon lord. Zabuza was about to comment, when he suddenly went rigid and drew in a large breath. Haku, I'm sorry I've treated you so poorly, I truly saw you as a son. I'm sorry. Zabuza then let out his breath, and closed his eyes for the last time. His head fell to the side and Gato laughed. So the demon is finally dead? Go get 'em boys. All of the mercenaries started forward, brandishing their weapons. Naruto turned from Zabuza and Haku and walked towards the slowly advancing mercenaries. Zabuza's last wish to me was to kill you all, so on my honor as a swordsman, you shall all perish. I would say hello to Kami for me when you get there, but none of you will be heading in that specific direction, so goodbye. Naruto flashed through, summoned a huge gust of wind around himself and spoke, Tenbatsu's K's. Wrath of God's wind. The burst of wind surged forward and engulfed the entire wave of mercenaries, Inside the gust were blades made entirely of wind. Naruto was glad he didn't blow the entirety of Zabuza's mist away, as Sakura would likely have nightmares for a long time if she saw what was happening at Naruto's end of the bridge. The gust of wind was whipping men around like rag dolls, as the blades of wind diced them to pieces, sending blood and chunks of bodies flying in every direction. Naruto watched with fascination as limbs and organs flew in every direction in the wind. He focused it slightly and was very pleased to watch Gato be diced into mincemeat before his eyes, leaving only his head unscathed. Naruto let the wind die down and the bodies settled to the ground in the massive stew of grotesqueness that it was. It was a sea of blood and body parts all over the bridge. There was so much blood that it was about an inch or two deep everywhere. There were limbs strewn everywhere, some even still grasping weapons. Naruto walked through the sea of blood and took Gato's head from the remains and walked back out of the mess. Then summoned another wind which sucked away all of the bodies and dumped them in the ocean, though the blood remained. Naruto walked back over to Zabuza's body, where Haku was still kneeling. They're all taken care of, Haku. I even got Gato's head. Don't worry about Zabuza, I'll give him a proper burial. Haku stood sadly from Zabuza's corpse. He had Zabuza's blade held in both hands. Here, his blade. He wanted you to honor it after all. Naruto nodded and took the blade from Haku, and placed it on his back, holding it in place with chakra. He scooped up Zabuza's body in his arms, with Gato's head held firmly in his hand by his hair. Naruto then walked back towards his group, with Haku following. Zabuza's mist finally faded all the way and Sakura caught sight of the head of Gato and shrieked. Then she saw Sasuke lying on the ground looking an awful lot like a porcupine and screamed and ran over to him. Kakashi saw Zabuza in Naruto's arms and sighed. It was over. Then he saw Gato's head in his hand, and Haku behind him. He also noticed the blade on Naruto's back and the sea of blood on the opposite end of the bridge. He managed to get back up on his feet and walked towards Naruto. Naruto, what exactly happened? What's with the sword, the head, and all that blood? Naruto looked back at the blood. It can't be good to leave it there, can it? He summoned up water from the ocean below and it swooped up over the bridge and crashed down onto the bridge and flowed down to the blood and swept it all off of the bridge into the water below, leaving the end of the bridge a dull red color. Sakura arrived at them carrying Sasuke, with a horribly downcast look on her face. When I got to him he had no heartbeat, she stuttered out. Kakashi's eyes suddenly grew very wide and he went to run over to Sasuke, but collapsed to his knees halfway there because of his own wounds. Naruto spoke up, don't worry about him, he's not dead. Haku just put him in a near-death state, he'll be awake shortly, and will be able to move normally in a couple days. Kakashi nodded, okay Naruto, spill it, what happened? Naruto sighed and began, I fought Zabuza. I didn't want Haku to get involved and try to sacrifice himself to save Zabuza, so I finished it quickly. Then Gato and about 250 mercenaries arrived at the end of the bridge, intending to kill us, Tazuna, and Haku. Zabuza told me his last wish was for Haku to live his own life, for me to honor him as a swordsman and to honor his blade, and to kill Gato and his men for him. So, I used an extremely powerful wind jutsu to take care of them all, which was the reason for all the blood. Kakashi nodded. He again didn't think all of the bloodshed was necessary, but the mission was accomplished, and it was the end result that mattered. Okay then, let's go to the house and get everyone fixed up and get ready. Once the bridge is finished we're heading back to Konoha, though I'm not sure what to do about Haku. Konoha doesn't harbor missing nins. Naruto smiled, good. Haku isn't a missing nin. He never attended an academy, and never became a nin of a village. He merely trained under Zabuza as a shinobi. Haku shuffled. Well, actually I don't really want to be a shinobi. I don't like to hurt people, and I can't bring myself to kill someone. I would rather use my Kikii Genkai to do something else, like open a business with ice sculptures. Just because I have a bloodline doesn't mean I have to use it for violence. Naruto grinned. Well okay then, all the easier. Now you just have to return with us as a civilian, not a shinobi. Kakashi nodded and I smiled. That does indeed make things easier, and it's nice to see someone with great killing capabilities wanting to do something besides killing. But for now my wounds are pretty bad, and we should get back to the house. Naruto nodded. I know some medical jutsu. I could heal your wounds at least somewhat, plus Haku and I have to bury Zabuza still. Kakashi nodded and sat down on the bridge. Alright then, patch me and Sasuke up quick. It doesn't have to be 100%. Just stop the bleeding and close the wounds. We can handle the rest while the bridge is finished. Naruto nodded and began. He placed Gato's head on the ground and got to work on closing Kakashi's wounds, which didn't take too long. Closing a wound was easy. Fully healing it was a bit more difficult. He then moved on to Sasuke, who was very easy, since the needles were mere punctures, not slashes and gashes. Once they were all ready to go, Kakashi, Sakura, and Tazuna went back to Tazuna's house, and Naruto created a shadow clone to carry Sasuke for them. He and Haku then left the bridge as well, with Naruto carrying Zabuza. They found a quiet hilltop with a tree, and Naruto created a grave with his control of earth. He placed Zabuza in the grave and created him a grave, so that those who knew him would know it was him, but those who sought his body for any secrets it may hold would be none the wiser. They too then went to Tazuna's house. Naruto brought the head of Gato and presented it to the village, where it was speared on a pike and put up for decoration. The group then spent the next few days recovering from their fight. Naruto sent about 100 shadow clones per day to help with the building, so it went much faster and finished ahead of schedule significantly. When the bridge was finally finished, the group said their goodbyes to Tazuna and his family. Inari came to see Naruto as a big brother figure. Tazuna asked them to stay for the naming ceremony, but they declined. They were already behind schedule with the mission and had to get to Konoha as soon as they could. Besides, Naruto already knew what the bridge's name would be. The Great Naruto Bridge. They arrived at Konoha eventually and made their way to the Hokage Tower with little trouble from the gate guards. They arrived at the Hokage's office and entered the room after he requested they enter. Sarutobi smiled at them. I trust the mission went well? He noticed Haku. I see you found someone on your travels? Very well, I'll have you all paid for your mission and have it filed away. Naruto stepped forward. Hold on, Gigi. The mission was not quite as uneventful as you assume. We came across some adversaries. Naruto motioned towards the sword on his back as he said adversaries. Sarutobi noticed the blade and instantly recognized it. You faced the demon of the hidden mist? What happened? Naruto sighed. Well, it turns out Tazuna lied about the mission because his country was too poor to pay for anything more, so the mission should have been ranked, at least. First we came across two Chunins, the demon brothers, shortly into our journey. They were easy enough to dispatch of. Later on we encountered Zabuza. He was dispatched of easily as well, but his apprentice saved him at the last second and they retreated. A few days later Zabuza and his apprentice attacked again. They were again easily dispatched of, permanently. After that the original root of all the problems appeared, Gato himself and an army of approximately 250 mercenaries. They were all effortlessly dealt with, and then we came back here after the bridge was finished. Sarutobi was more and more surprised as the story went on. When Naruto finished he nodded. Is this true, Kakashi? Kakashi nodded. Every word, Hokage-sama. Sarutobi nodded once again. I suppose I'll have the bounty that was on Zabuza's head paid to you then, Kakashi? Kakashi frowned beneath his mask and shook his head. Naruto was actually the one who defeated, well, everyone on the mission. He killed the two Chunins, then beat Zabuza the first time, then killed him later on. Then he killed Gato and his army by himself after I was knocked out and Sasuke collapsed. Sarutobi gasped. Naruto killed over 250 men by himself on his first mission? Very well, I suppose I'll have the bounty paid to Naruto then. Who is this young lady then? He said, motioning to Haku. Haku coughed into his hand. I'm a boy actually. Sarutobi's eyes widened. Oh, I apologize about that. Naruto chuckled. This is Haku. He was once Zabuza's apprentice, though he doesn't want to be a shinobi anymore now that his life is his own to rule. He wants to settle down as a civilian and open a business or something. Sarutobi nodded. That's very nice, but we can't harbor missing nins here in Konoha. Naruto nodded swiftly. I know, Haku isn't a missing nin. Technically he's not even a shinobi. He trained with Zabuza, but never took any graduation exam. He never became an official shinobi. Sarutobi nodded, happy with the explanation. In that case, I will get to work on your papers, Haku. Everyone else, you're dismissed and will have pay for an A- ranked mission added to your accounts. It will also be added to your mission history as an A- ranked mission. Naruto, you will also be receiving the bounty on Zabuza Momochi. Now get out of here and enjoy yourselves. The team bowed to the Hokage and left the office, leaving Haku to answer any questions needed for his paperwork. The team split up outside of the tower and went their separate ways. Naruto headed off to get some ramen at Ichiraku. He hadn't been there in quite a while now. On his way to Ichiraku's, Naruto passed an alley and heard someone struggling. He walked down the alley and saw someone in black holding Konohamaru off the ground, and it clicked. Right. Kankuro, Temari, and Gaara. Naruto walked down the alley and walked up to Kankuro. Do you know exactly who you're threatening there? Kankuro sneered at Naruto. No, and I don't give a damn. The little shit knocked into me. Now I'm gonna teach him a lesson, and if you don't fuck off I'm gonna teach you to mind your business next. Kankuro let his fist fly at Konohamaru's face, and before he knew what happened, Naruto grabbed his fist with one hand, bent it behind him and had his sword pressed against his throat. Now then, since you like to make open threats to people without finding out anything about them, that is the Hokage's grandson, and I'm fully willing to kick your ass to protect him, so drop the boy. Kankuro released Konohamaru and he dropped to the ground. Naruto then released Kankuro and was standing in front of him again with his sword sheathed before he or Temari saw him move. Now, unless you're here to start an invasion or something, it would be wise if you watched what you did before the Chunin exams. Kankuro and Temari's eyes widened at the way he said, invasion, as if he somehow knew about their plan. Naruto sensed Gaara's appearance. Ah, hello there Gaara, it's so wonderful to meet you. Naruto turned to Gaara, who was hanging upside down on a tree branch. Gaara narrowed his eyes at Naruto. You, how do you know my name? Gaara demanded. Naruto chuckled. How do I not know the name of the children of the Yondaime case cage? Gaara, Temari, and Kankuro. I know many other things too, but it would ruin the surprise to blab so soon. Naruto turned to walk away and cast one last look over his shoulder. A little bit of advice, if you plan to stay around long enough to make it through the Chunin exams, don't go bullying random people. If I wasn't so nice, and didn't know so much about you three, I would have killed you all on the spot. Yes, even the Ichibi? Naruto then left, dragging Konohamaru with him. Completely ignoring the surprised and frightened looks he got out of the three about him knowing of the Ichibi and not being the slightest bit worried. Once they were out of view, Konohamaru broke free of Naruto's loose grip and looked up to him. Hey, you scared the crap out of them without even trying. I demand you to teach me. Naruto stopped walking and looked down at Konohamaru. No. Konohamaru's eyes widened. What? You know who I am, who my grandfather is, and you said no? Naruto nodded. Yes, go train with Ebisu, he's trained to teach you. I'm not going to teach you anything. You're not strong enough to learn what I know. Just then the shinobi in question appeared and noticed Naruto. Honorable grandson, get away from him. He's nothing but a bad influence and a lousy shinobi. Naruto growled. Ebisu, shut up about my skills. You're the lousiest Junin I've ever seen. Keep a better eye on your student, would you? Or is a mere academy student too much for you to keep track of? I do believe it is you that is a lousy shinobi and a bad influence, after all. At least I'm not a closet pervert with a porn stash. Ebisu glared at Naruto, clearly furious. You're lucky that you are only a genin, or I would show you how to watch what you say. Naruto chuckled. I would gladly kick your ass anytime, Ebisu. The only problem is if I fought you for real, you would die. Just like the last Junin I actually tried against. Ebisu laughed. When have you ever faced a Junin in real combat? The test with your sensei doesn't count, you know. Naruto sent Ebisu an evil smirk. Of course it doesn't count, there wasn't even a fight. I figured out his test before we even started it. I'm talking about the A-rank mission I just got back from. You see this blade on my back? The large one, not the little one? Ebisu nodded. Well, do you know whose blade this was? Ebisu shook his head. Figures. A great shinobi you are, you don't even read the bingo book. This blade was the demon of the hidden mists. In other words, it was Zabuza Momochi's blade. I took it from him after killing him and 250 plus other men. Ebisu looked shocked for a second before laughing. Yeah, sure. I'll bet you stole the blade after Kakashi did all the work, you thief. Naruto crossed the gap and had his sword against Ebisu's throat before he could blink. Do not call me a thief, Ebisu. I never liked you, and I never will. If you want proof so badly, go to Wave Country, there is a bridge named after me there now, or go to the Sandaime. He can tell you everything I said was true, or I could just kill you, and you could spend your entire afterlife regretting underestimating me. Ebisu gulped. Fine, maybe you killed him yourself. Now remove this damned blade. Naruto smirked and had the blade put away again, before Ebisu could blink. Good, now keep better track of Konohamaru. He's a heap of trouble and I know you suck too much to keep good track of him. Ebisu glared at him from behind his sunglasses but merely left with Konohamaru. Naruto was glad that he finally had some peace again. He continued on his way and got to Ichiraku's. He finally made it and happily stuffed his face full of all the different types of ramen they had. He left happy and full, and paid his rather large tab. He made his way home and fell asleep. The team met up the next morning at their training grounds, on the bridge over a small creek. Kakashi arrived 2 hours late as usual, but had a good reason this time. I've registered you all for the Chunin exams. You just have to fill in these papers and hand them in at room 301 of the academy if you want to go, so make your decision and do what you want. The test starts in 2 hours, so you don't have forever. I guess I'll see you guys later. Whether you take the test or not is up to you and you alone. Kakashi then disappeared in a plume of smoke. The three made their decisions unanimously and filled out their papers and headed for the academy. They walked into the academy and went up the stairs to the second floor and they came across a large group of genins crowded around 2 genin, who were guarding the door to room 301. Naruto decided he might as well let everyone else know this time too. They did it last time. He walked up, through the crowd and walked up to the door just in time to see Lee get punched to the ground by one of them. Oi, what the hell do you two think you're doing? Naruto yelled. They glared at Naruto. We're keeping all you weaklings from entering the exam room, that's what we're doing. Naruto chuckled, really now? Are you really? 'Cause this ain't room 301. This is only the second floor. Any half-wit could figure that out. Plus you two should go back to guarding the gate, or should I report to Hokage-sama that you two abandoned your post to interfere with the Chunin exams? The two paled. Honestly Naruto, you ruin all the fun. You could have just passed by and left everyone else. Just because you are so damn good doesn't mean everyone else is. The two cancelled their henges, revealing the 2 Chunin guards of the village gates. Naruto chuckled again. Yeah, I could have left them all to themselves, but I decided to give them all a helping hand. I see a couple kids from my academy class here. I wouldn't want them to flunk out before they even got a chance to take the test. The 2 guards frowned and disappeared in twin plumes of smoke, ending their genjutsu, revealing it to only be room 201. Everyone then piled into the stairs all at once heading up to the 3rd floor. They arrived and there was a large dojo. On the opposite side of the room were 2 large double doors. Right as they were about to cross the room, Lee jumped in front of them, in all of his green jumpsuit glory. Naruto knew what was coming, and didn't want to deal with Sasuke bitching about losing this fight. Sasuke Uchiha, I challenge you to a spar. That way I can prove once and for all that hard work always overcomes natural talent. Lee yelled. Sasuke was about to accept it when Naruto interrupted, sorry, but the exams begin soon, and we shouldn't fight outside of the exams anyway, we'll be going. I can already tell you that hard work tops natural-born talent anyway Lee, I am the king of that domain. Team 7 walked past a flabbergasted Lee. It seemed that the Lee member of their team was the leader. The exact opposite of Lee's own team, where the natural talent was the leader, Yash. Tell me your name please, most youthful blonde. Naruto looked over his shoulder back at Lee. The name's Naruto Uzumaki, and I'm the strongest person here at the exams. Lee flashed him a thumbs up. I am Rock Lee, and I look forward to facing you in a most youthful match Uzumaki-san. Naruto grinned in his mind. No, you really don't. Nice to meet you Lee. Well, we better get going. You should go too. It would be a shame if you were disqualified for being late. Lee nodded and ran into the room ahead of them. Team 7 then entered a moment after him, after Kakashi said how he was proud about how they each decided to come, since they could only attend if they had a full team. When they entered the room all eyes dropped on them, more specifically they all dropped on Naruto, and the swords on his back. A few gasps were heard around the room, and then hushed whispers spread quickly throughout the room. Naruto used his superior hearing to listen in. Turns out a bunch of the genins recognized the sword of Zabuza, probably the mist nins he figured. Before anything could be said, Naruto's group was crowded around by the rest of the Rookie 9, with everyone making casual conversation, and arguing like kids. This drew the aggravated attention of everyone in the room, and a silver-haired, glasses-wearing nin walked up to them all. Naruto instantly recognized him as Kabuto, Orochimaru's right-hand man, definitely going to kill him as well. "Hey, you guys should keep it down, you're drawing a whole lot of unwanted attention to yourselves," Kabuto said. Everyone looked around and noticed that everyone was glaring hatefully at them. Kabuto spoke again, "You guys are the rookies, right? I'm a bit of a veteran around here, so I suppose I'll help you out. I've been collecting information on everyone in the exams for a couple of years now. I've taken the exams 7 times now, so I know a bit about everyone." Shikamaru sighed, "Sheesh, 7 times? This is going to be so troublesome, how can you help?" Kabuto smiled pleasantly. "I've got information for everyone here on these cards I have here," Kabuto said while pulling out a thick deck of cards. "Anyone you guys want to know anything about?" Kabuto asked. "Rock Lee, from Konoha," Sasuke said. "Naruto Uzumaki, from Konoha," Shikamaru said, surprising everyone. Naruto turned to Shikamaru. "You want to know about me, Shika? Here I thought we were buddies or something, thought you already knew about me." Shikamaru chuckled. A little extra info never hurt anyone. Kabuto interrupted them and placed a card on the ground and began to focus chakra to it. "Alright, first up is Rock Lee. He's 1 year older than you guys. He has no skill at all in ninjutsu or genjutsu. He specializes in taijutsu. His sensei is Maeda Guy. His teammates are Neji Hyuga and Tenten Kurosake, fake name. Their team has completed 137 D ranks, and 37 C ranks." He then placed another card down and focused chakra into it. "Alright. Naruto Uzumaki, his ninjutsu is off the charts. He has incredible taijutsu skills, but really shines in kenjutsu. His sensei is Kakashi Hitaki and his teammates are Sasuke Uchiha and Sakura Haruno. He's done, 74 D ranks, 1 B rank, that he did solo. And an A- rank. It says he has never been reported to have been injured on a mission. On his solo B rank he killed a Chunin of Konoha that had abandoned the village and tried to kill him. This mission was completed while he was still in the academy. On his A-rank mission he single-handedly killed the infamous Demon of the Hidden Mist, Zabuza Momochi, a Junin-rank missing nin. He also killed 2 Chunins, and over 250 men on that same mission. There is a bridge now named after him in the Land of Waves for his actions on that same A-rank mission. Lastly, it says that his chakra is off the charts, higher than that of the Hokages by far." Naruto glanced around, looking at people as the list went online, quite pleased with the startled looks on everyone's faces. "Just so you all know, the 250 men on that A rank were all mercenaries, not like innocent villagers or anything," he said. Everyone was now mildly scared of Naruto, everyone except his team, that is. After everyone stopped focusing on them, Naruto dragged his team aside quick. "Right, you guys know the story. I'm from the future. This test is cake. It's all about cheating to find the answers. Sasuke, use your Sharingan. Sakura, you can figure them out on your own. I'm gonna do my own thing." They both nodded. It definitely helped having a teammate who could, more or less, predict the future. A moment later a large plume of smoke signaled the entrance of some 21 men. At the head of the group was a tall man with a black trench coat and a black bandana. "I'm Ibiki Morino, and I'm the proctor for the first exam, and for the next 90 minutes you're all mine." The test was handed out, and the rules were explained. Naruto knew exactly what he was going to do with his test, absolutely nothing. He used his power over the elements to hover his paper in the air with the wind, then slowly make it do things like flips, and other things. He got bored of it was too quickly and started to do other, not so boring things, like play with fire in his hands. He tossed a fireball from hand to hand for a bit, before putting it out, and settling on using his fire control to age his test to look multiple hundreds of years old, but before he did it he scribbled out a nice message for Ibiki to read when he got to his test. The test time passed slowly for Naruto, and he was incredibly bored. He was tempted to turn to Hinata and talk, but that would get both him and her busted for cheating, and that would suck. Ibiki was waiting for more teams to bow out from the 10th question when Naruto spoke. "Ibiki, no one else is leaving the room. Why don't you tell them all about the 10th question now?" They're all waiting with bated breath. Ibiki glared at Naruto, and his apparent obvious knowledge of the exam, but he noticed no other teams were hesitating, and so he started. "Alright then. You all passed the first exam?" A series of "Nani?" rolled throughout the classroom, and Ibiki was about to explain it when Naruto beat him to the punch. "Come on people. The entire test was a play on your mind. The first 9 questions were to test you information gathering skills, while the 10th question was to see if you were willing to risk everything for your goal. Ibiki again narrowed his eyes again at Naruto. I couldn't have said it better myself. Care to tell me how you knew all of this, genin? Naruto chuckled. A good shinobi needs to know how to gather information. I did just that. I went through the village archives and found out who the exam proctors were, then went through all their records and found out everything about the proctors, personalities, preferences, missions done, everything. Then I used all the knowledge I gathered to predict how you would act, what the tests would be like, and what the hidden motives of the tests would be. Quite simple really. Just a big game of connect the dots if you think about it on a large scale. Ibiki smiled at the skill Naruto showed, then narrowed them again at what he said. How exactly did you get into the archives? They are highly restricted and heavily guarded by Anbu. Naruto laughed again. Another necessary skill for a good shinobi is good stealth skills, such as the skills to sneak past Anbu guards, lock doors, booby traps and other things, break and look through all the records, and leave without a trace of evidence left behind to prove it ever happened. Ibiki was officially impressed with the kid. He had openly admitted to breaking a law with a heavy consequence, yet was so confident in his own skills that he knew they couldn't prove it if they wanted to. Just then a black ball smashed through the window and a large banner was pinned to the ceiling by Kunai, and Anko Mitarashi stood before them all in her full glory. A short trench coat that was left open, with nothing beneath but some fishnet, and a miniskirt that was tan. Hey, I'm Anko Mitarashi, the proctor of the second exam. Ibiki stepped from around the banner, and you're completely early. Anko smirked. Oh, am I interrupting something? Naruto smirked. Actually, yeah you were. Me and Ibiki were having a fabulous conversation, then you came and ruined the mood. Anko glared at Naruto and threw a kunai at him. Naruto didn't flinch one bit as the kunai flew straight at his face, then stopped less than an inch from his eye, stopped by wire attached to the handle. Anko smirked at his lack of reaction. Either you have a death wish, or you're good. Naruto grinned evilly, or, you just suck at hiding shinobi wire. Anko disappeared and reappeared standing behind Naruto, but she noticed his swords and couldn't do her usual move of draping herself on the helpless genin, so she pressed a kunai to his throat, drawing blood. You want to test your luck, genin? Naruto smirked and turned in his spot, drawing the blade across his neck, increasing the size of the cut. Nope. Sorry, I'm not into beating on women, even if they are playful kunoichi. Anko smirked. You sure like to play with fire. She snatched out with her hand at lightning speed towards his unmentionables. To her surprise she grabbed nothing but air. Naruto disappeared with pure speed and appeared behind her and wrapped an arm around her waist and hoisted her up off the ground with one hand and walked down to the front of the classroom. Then whispered something in her ear, which made her growl at him, but she spoke, despite her position. Would everyone please follow us to training ground 44? You all have 10 minutes to get there, so please do your best to get there on time, or you will be disqualified. Ibiki, along with all of the Chunin, eagle eyes, jaws dropped, was that Anko, being polite. You sure have some balls, kid. No one ever takes on Anko, and I've never heard her say please before in my life. Good luck to you when she gets free. Naruto smirked. I'm not worried about it. Naruto then hoisted Anko under his arm and jumped out the window with her in his grasp. Some genins followed far behind, some took the normal route. While they were jumping through the trees, Anko twisted and looked up at Naruto. What's up with you, kid? You're way too strong to be a genin. Naruto looked down at her and smirked. Thanks for the compliment, but I'm still only a genin right now. You see the sword on my back? Anko looked behind him, and finally noticed exactly what sword was on his back. That sword. How did you get it? Naruto's smirk grew. I take it you know whose blade it was? Anko nodded. Well, I got it from him. While he was dying he told me to bring it honor. Since I killed him it was my duty to take his blade and bring it great honor. Anko's jaw dropped. You killed Zabuza Momochi? Why the hell are you still a genin? Naruto smirked. I'm at these Chunin exams for a reason, you know, to get promoted. Though I don't think I will make Chunin. Sure, I could fight anyone in the village and win. But brute strength isn't enough to make Chunin, and I'm not a fan of tactics. I prefer to smash everything in sight. No one ever really does too much against me anyway. Defeated Zabuza without getting touched after all. Anko grinned at Naruto. If you were a couple years older, I'd jump all over you, kid. You're my type of guy. Naruto laughed. You have no idea just how alike you and I are, Anko. We've both been hated and shunned by the village our whole lives for things we have no control over, you for your sensei, and your curse seal, me for my curse of a seal. Anko's eyes widened. How do you know about my seal, or him? Naruto laughed sadly. Ask Ibiki. I was explaining the same thing to him when you interrupted. I know more than just that about you though. I also know that deep down you aren't like this, you're a hurt, scared person. You created this mask to protect yourself from the hate of the village, be eccentric, be different, and no one cares enough to hate you for what you don't control, instead they hate you for being you. And that's at least a little better, am I right? Anko was stunned. How do you know all this? Naruto sighed. Like I said, we're more alike than you think. I used to do the exact same thing when I was young, act like a fool, an immature prankster. At least then they all hate me for my pranks and not some fox sealed in me. They arrived at Training Ground 44, better known as the Forest of Death. Naruto put Anko down, and she completely forgot about wanting to kick his ass for what he did. Naruto turned to her and said one last thing to her before more kids started showing up and he went off with his group. You don't have to worry about it though, Anko. Soon enough I'm going to fix things and make things better, for both you and me. Naruto met back up with Sasuke and Sakura, and they both gave him WTF. Looks, what exactly was the purpose of you hijacking the proctor, Naruto? Sakura asked. Naruto laughed at the way she put it. I just had to talk with her for a few minutes, and that was the easiest way to get her to listen. Nothing to worry about, let's focus on the test. So you guys know, a bit into the exam I'm going to tell you to go on ahead to the tower, do it. Do not stop at all for anything at all. Go straight to the tower and do not worry about me or anything else. I'm going to deal with a small timeline problem, and I'll also get the scroll we need. This test involves us getting a scroll we need and heading to a tower in the center of the forest. That is the tower I mean. It shouldn't take you long to get there, and I'll get there not long after you do. Sasuke frowned. To hell with that. We're gonna help you, Naruto, we're a team after all. Naruto smiled. Thanks, Sasuke, but this is a problem with the timeline, and only I can fix it. I can't risk you guys because this is an important event, and it involves you too heavily, so I don't want you anywhere near it, because if time repeats itself here, one of you will die, possibly both of you. They weren't happy about it, but they listened to him. Neither of them wanted to die after all. The team went back to the exam and listened as Anko explained the goal of the exam, about the scrolls and the death waivers that needed to be signed beforehand. They all signed their papers and they received their scroll. They then waited at their gate for the exam to begin. Upon its beginning the gates slammed open and all of the teams poured into the forest, including Naruto's. They were through the forest for a while when a mist shinobi attacked them, on his own for some reason. Naruto knocked him out and threw him into a bush since he didn't have a scroll, and the team continued on its way. Another few minutes later and a powerful gust of wind blew through the clearing, blowing Naruto away. In reality he manipulated the wind and it carried him to a branch of tree above the action. Naruto watched as Orochimaru came out of the forest, hanged as himself. Sasuke saw through it easy enough and Naruto chose that moment to drop in. He dropped down between Orochimaru and his teammates. Now. Go, get to the tower now you two. They both nodded and took off running full speed towards the center of the forest. Orochimaru immediately went to go after them, but Naruto got in his way. Once they were out of earshot Naruto made things clear. Orochimaru, it ends here, Naruto stated, with no emotion in his voice. Orochimaru pulled off the mask he had on, revealing his pale skin. Kukuku, so you know of me then, and you know how outclassed you are, genin. Naruto smirked. I do know of you. I also know that it is not I who is outmatched here, it is you. Orochimaru smirked. Kukuku, is that so? Orochimaru flared his full killing intent at Naruto, which would normally be enough to make a genin lock up in fear, but Naruto didn't even flinch. You call that killing intent? Try mine on for size. Naruto threw out all of his killing intent at Orochimaru, which was a lot considering he was the Kyuubi. Orochimaru was sweating from the force of the killing intent. It was actually making it slightly hard for him to breathe. You certainly have a lot of killing intent, but do you have actual power to back it up? Orochimaru dropped into his Hubei taijutsu style. Naruto grinned evilly and cracked his neck. Of course I do. Naruto unleashed his entire power as a nine-tailed demon. The force blew away the tree in a 50-foot radius around him. Orochimaru was pinned by the sheer force of the power. Naruto dropped down into a feral fighting style. He features much more feral, with elongated canines, sharpened claws, deepened whiskers and blood-red, slitted eyes. The wave of power Naruto unleashed was felt across the entire village and beyond. Everyone was left shaking from the memories of the terrible power that just washed over them. A few people even had heart attacks from the fear it instilled in them. Naruto focused his chakra around him and he glowed a bright red. He crouched and lunged at the pinned Orochimaru and raked his claws across his chest, shredding his shirt and leaving deep claw marks across his chest. The sudden impact and pain from the claws knocked him from his stupor and Orochimaru went on the defense, blocking the rest of Naruto's claw sweeps with his arms and legs. It was then that he noticed the wounds in his chest were burning something terrible. Naruto grinned. Those wounds are filled with demonic chakra Orochimaru. It's eating away at the tissue around it, and it's not going to stop, it's like a living acid. Orochimaru's eyes widened, and he instantly took out the Kusanagi sword all the way. He grabbed its handle and removed it fully from his mouth. Then I must kill you quickly to make it stop. Orochimaru lunged at Naruto this time, and Naruto whipped out his own blade, but it was different. Much different. It was no longer a regular two-handed katana. It was now more like a giant claymore of a similar design to his katana. The blade was black and had gold kanjis at the base. The odd thing was the entire blade was glowing red, as if Naruto's chakra was energizing the blade. Naruto pushed the change to the back of his mind and blocked Orochimaru's strike, and slashed back with his own vertical strike, which Orochimaru parried to the side and struck his opening. He cut deeply into Naruto's chest with Kusanagi. Naruto completely ignored the wound and used Orochimaru's surprise against him. He slashed back with his own sword and caught Orochimaru with a long deep cut that went from halfway past his right elbow, up to his shoulder. Orochimaru instantly winced as that wound started to burn like the wounds from his claws, but this burned so much more, it felt like his arm was on fire. He then looked down at the claw wounds and was surprised to see they had already eaten through the skin separating the wounds, combining them into one large wound, and were now starting to dissolve the flesh below. He was at a major disadvantage now. His right arm was completely useless, and his chest was being eaten away, as was his arm. He switched the Kusanagi to his left, weaker hand but had no choice. Now with one arm he couldn't even use any jutsus. Orochimaru went back on the offensive, but was off balance with his right arm just flailing around uselessly. Naruto ended that problem for him with a heavy downward swing, severed the arm from his body just past the shoulder. He then instantly incinerated it so it couldn't be somehow fixed. Orochimaru howled in pain from the loss of his arm, and he couldn't even run away. With one arm he couldn't perform any jutsus, and with this demonic chakra burning away at him, it wouldn't stop burning until Naruto or he died. Orochimaru went back on the offensive, in an almost fury state. He ignored the cuts Naruto inflicted on him with his sword, and focused squarely on rending his target to pieces. He slashed at Naruto all over, leaving deep gashes all over his chest, arms and even thighs. Then the numerous wounds he took from Naruto caught up to him. They all started to burn with the demonic chakra and it forced him to his hand and knees. When he dropped down to his knees and leaned forward, Naruto instantly appeared next to him. You have interfered with the plans of Kami Orochimaru, and you have done many wrong things in your life. You are sentenced to die, and burn on the plains of hell for all eternity. Goodbye. Naruto swung down with all his strength and cleanly severed Orochimaru's head from his body. He quickly searched him and luck would have it he had the scroll they needed. He incinerated his body and took his head with him. He also took the Kusanagi blade and put it on his back, next to Zabuza's blade. He sheathed his own blade, and fixed his clothes before disappearing in a burst of flames. Naruto appeared deeper in the forest, closer to the tower. He was tracking Kabuto's chakra, and it was turning out easy. Naruto came upon Kabuto, who was alone, and he jumped down in front of him. Kabuto looked at him. He knew the burst of Kyuubi's power before had come from him. Naruto, what happened? Naruto grinned and flared his whole power all the way again. I killed Orochimaru, and now I'm here to kill you, traitor. Naruto ripped his blade from its sheath. Kabuto was completely rooted in his spot, unable to move from the raw power and killing intent Naruto was using. Naruto swung his sword in one full clean motion. and cleanly decapitated Kabuto. Naruto did the same as he had with Orochimaru. He searched his body, then incinerated it. While keeping the head, he sealed his and Orochimaru's heads into a scroll and went to the tower to meet up with his team. Naruto caught up with the two of them just outside the tower. They had made really good time when they hauled ass. Naruto whipped out the scroll they needed and went into the tower. They opened the scrolls and solved the simple riddle and walked inside. They had made an absolute clean sweep of the record boards and arrived in under the first hour. Anko had felt it the second it happened. She felt her curse seal fade from her and disappear. His influence was gone. She felt completely at rest. But the only way it could have happened was if he had died. There's no way he's dead, yet here it is, plain as day gone. Then she remembered what Naruto had said to her last, "You don't have to worry about it though, Anko. Soon enough I'm going to fix things and make things better, for both you and me." There's no way he killed him somehow. Then again, that huge burst of Kyuubi's power just now could have only come from him, and then a few minutes after it happened the seal faded. That's it, I'm going to see Hokage-sama. Anko got up from her seat against the fence and headed towards the Hokage's tower. That's all for now. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments.